Thumbs up, you guys. What's going on, Conscious Crew? It is your favorite breakdown commentator, CTV. Welcome to another riveting episode of the Consciouztv platform. You guys already know what we're here to discuss. Before we get deep off into the fizzle, I need you guys to go ahead and thumbs up the video. You guys know that thumbing up helps with YouTube's algorithm, and because we've been busting it open all day, my notifications are probably shot, okay? So I need you guys to definitely thumbs up, whether you are a part of the replay gang, you're in these bushes right now, or you are actively in the chat running these streets with me in real time. Please hit the thumbs up button. It don't cost you nothing, and it's the best way to support the gang. All right. Also, shout out to all the new subbies. We are at 47.9. We are just like 80 subscribers away from 48, girl. We like tripled our numbers just within like 3 weeks, child. It's been amazing. All right. Also, make sure that you have your notification bell set to all. And last but not least, please share the stream out to whatever it is you have digital community, whether that be your YouTube community wall, your Instagram, your Snapchat, your MySpace, the dark side of Twitter, Tumblr, or your personal OF. I don't really give a damn where you lay the link. Just let them whores know that we're live, and we're certainly in color. And with no further ado, let's go ahead and push on through.
I know a place where you can recharge your soul.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
And in the midst of brokenness, he gon' see your asshole.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
You gon' heal, you gon' laugh and catch a little shade.
Ooh, girl.
Y'all know he be slaying, y'all better stop playing. Come hear what he's saying.
Ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Hold on, y'all. This fan is blowing my hair in every which way. But I need a girl because it is too hot and I like to stay matte and dry. The only thing I like to be whoppy is the thing, honey. Okay, everything else need to be matte. What's going on, Conscious Crew? Let me speak to some of you guys in the building before we get started. What's going on, my Kiki? Hey, Bethany. Hey, Kiwana. What's going on? Bring them STV. Hey, Dr. Quantum. What's going on, Tasmania? Hey, Bring the Mess. Hey, IG. Hey, Yvette. What's going on, Sister Phyllis? Hi, St. Marquis. Hey, Crystal. What's going on, Jamie? Hey, Boo. What's going on, Nakia? Hey, JH. Hey, Shayla. Hey, Perp. Now, you guys, I be looking at the chat through StreamYard. if you be speaking to me and I be actually calling, I be roll calling and I never say your name, it's because some of y'all do not come up on StreamYard. I have to pull up the actual YouTube stream to see y'all names. I don't know why that happens. I don't know why StreamYard doesn't translate everybody's comments over to StreamYard. So charge it to the game, okay? Not to me being a bitch, even though I am. Now, you guys know we're here to discuss. My beautiful moderator, Rumors and Tea, who is a part of my street committee team, girl. She be out here. She's one of the producers of the show as well. She had sent me this interview between Kirk cussing out Ash Franklin and Cam Newton. I have not had an opportunity to watch the interview in its entirety, but I did get an opportunity thanks to Rumors and Tea, my beautiful moderator, to see a 13-minute clip of Kirk Franklin talking about his mother, okay, and why he does not speak to his biological mother. In the comment section, it opened up a conversation around the need in the Black community to talk more about toxic mothers. Oftentimes, toxicity of parents centers are largely around Black fathers and toxic masculinity and an absence of fathers in the Black community. But a lot of people feel like the conversations around the contrary, which is the presence of a toxic ass, emotionally unavailable, manipulative, narcissistic ass mother, is something that is greatly underwhelmed in terms of the attention brought to such a subject, okay? So Rumors and Tea really felt compelled about this conversation. Rumors and Tea is a mother herself, and I'm going to allow her to ultimately lead the discussion, and I'm going to be a supporting castmate. We will be dropping the link as well, and for those of you who missed it, we will have an opportunity. I will give you guys opportunity to hear some of what Kirk Franklin was talking about as it relates to his mother. And then we'll proceed to get into it, girl. What's going on, Candace? Hey, boo. Hey, Lenny on the beat. Hey, Corey. Hey, y'all. All right, let me bring up Rumors. Hi, Rumors.
Hey, Conscious. What
Hey,
up, Conscious girl?
TGIF.
Shout out to the crew in the building. Thank God it's Friday.
Thank God it's Friday. How you feeling today? Like, how's your Friday going?
It's going good. I feel enlightened. I've been doing a lot of shadow work for myself and out here on my Eonla work, trying to help people open their hearts and their minds and get it together.
Yeah, I know that's right. I love that for you. I love that for us. Okay.
Yeah, it feels great.
Yes, it feels great. Now you felt particularly called to this interview. So before we play some of the interview for the Conscious crew, do you want to tell us a little bit about what stood out to you about this particular conversation around Kirk Franklin and his mom, etc.? I'm
gonna tell you, when I watched it, and I don't know if people know how to tap into their healed trauma without being triggered up. And I was proud. I felt myself like coming to tears because it did not trigger me, because I had myself my own traumatic broken relationship with my mom that I was genuinely able to heal. But there was some things that Kirk spoke on that I just truly identify with. And I think that we have a tendency to look at celebrities as if they're not human beings, like regular people. They're just regular people with money, and more visibility, But I was like really shocked. I don't know if anybody else has experienced that, where you can speak to your trauma from a healed place and not get triggered up again. Absolutely. And I think that is so important. Like, on this journey called life that we're all experiencing. We have to get in tune with that, because if you're still triggered up by something, that means you're not healed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Well, I'm excited to get more into your story and to also unpack this discussion. Once again, we will be dropping the link, you guys, but we need you guys to please thumbs up, up, up. We're working, honey. The platform is disseminating content out, honey, hour by hour, honey. You know, we be working over here, so please support the platform with the thumbs up. This helps us to continue to grow the channel. Now, what we're going to do is turn it over to Cam Newton. And this is a 13-minute talk. I don't know if we're going to listen to the whole thing, but we'll see. This is covered by Fair Use, courtesy of the Cam Newton platform. Of course, Fair Use covers research, parody, comedy, commentary purposes, etc. Once again, courtesy of the Cam Newton platform, and we're going to do audio. So let me switch over my microphone. And this is Kirk Franklin opening up about why he does not speak to his biological mother, you guys. All right.
You know what? For the first time ever, I'm going to tell the story. I've never told the story before.
Look again.
I'm going to tell the story for the first time in my life.
I'm going to speed it up a little bit.
This is why I started talking to my biological mother. Here it is. 32 years old, my sister gets out of prison, and I'm the only one trying to help her. And she needs a lot of help. Where's she going to stay? What's she going to do? Because again, she's been in prison with this institutionalized drugs, all these different things. I found a ministry that I paid these two ladies to just kind of mother her and nurture her. And she stayed in their house with a few other ladies and young girls that were kind of going through the same thing. And my sister was still struggling with drugs and, you know, her body and use for drugs and all these different things. And it was more than a 32-year-old boy can handle. And my sister has a younger daughter who's like a child to me and Tammy. Her name's Monica. Incredible. She came into my life. She was 14. She showed up at my doorstep and said, "You my uncle." I didn't even know I had a niece. And so she was 14. I was about 31, 32 years old. And so Monica is living with this lady who's like a grandmother to her. And so I say to Monica, I said, we need to, and to the ladies my sister's living with, we need to find a way to get people together to help my sister. Right. So we reached out. I had somebody reach, it was either Monica, somebody reached out to my biological mother, Deborah, Sandra, and then they have another sister named Dee Dee. And we needed to do an intervention to help Sawana. Because again, this is not my daughter. Sawana's not my daughter. She's my sister. Sawana has a real mama. Need help from the family because again, it takes a village. Right. So I called. I'm telling you, I called.
Okay, so you guys know I got to give commentary in between so that it can fall within fair use. But Kirk Franklin is talking about how he had a sister. The sister was on drugs really bad, in and out of prison, and just very troubled. She also has a daughter that came into Kirk Franklin and his wife's life at around 14 years of age. They basically consider her one of their children. They consider her their daughter, even though he would be an uncle to her. And he's speaking about putting together an intervention for his sister. And how he's only 34 years of age at this time. He has no idea what he's doing. He just knows that he loves his sister and he wants to help save her life and help to galvanize community around her. And he's going to try to pull the family into this because he can't do this by himself. It's going to take community. It's going to take a village.
I don't think I called, but I had somebody call everybody together.
A representative of you.
And so we met up all together at the house that Monica was, that Sawana's daughter Monica was living in. And when we all met up, everybody showed up, but my biological mother, she showed up with her new husband. Nobody had ever known this man. Nobody knew who this man was. She shows up with her new husband.
Now they paying them bills. I need y'all to pay them too by thumbing up the video, please. Thumbs up.
So we're trying to do this intervention. And it's not going well because my biological mother has always had a temper. And the way she was communicating with my sister was not compassionate, was not healing. And it was a struggle for me to watch the way she was handling my sister. It was very difficult. But I could see she was trying. I just, it was like, I remember as a child, the times that I would be around my biological mother, she was a firecracker. Mm-hmm. I'm a firecracker. I got that too. And so the way that it was going okay. It wasn't going the way, that I pictured in my mind, like the Hallmark card. You know what I mean? What I'm saying? I had in my mind the kumbaya.
You're Kirk Franklin. You thought you had everything under control. People think you have everything. You're wearing designer from head to toe. You sell out arenas. You do this, you do that. Everybody knows who you are. But
I can't fix this.
Sure.
And I'm 32 years old. Mm-hmm. So I'm 54 now. So you look back and like, 32? I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
So as this intervention ended, Deborah, my biological sister, my sister and myself, as it ended before we were about to leave, we all three hugged. Because we had been around each other in years. When we started hugging, it was either Sandra or Dee Dee. I think it was Sandra. One of them said, "Oh, this is," I could hear one of them say, "This is so beautiful. This is the way family should be. This is the way y'all need to be doing. Y'all need to be." And then I said, "Hey guys, this is not about us. This is about Sawana. Mm-hmm. This moment is about Sawana. We need to focus on Sawana."
Right.
After I said that, Deborah's new husband in the corner, he yells, "What you need to do is call your mama sometime." I said, "Sir."
All right, y'all know I got to interrupt every now and again. So you guys are hearing, the whole family's there. The mother is there. She brings her overperformative ass husband, girl. It's always one of them that got to do the most, kill the damn vibe. Okay, he's talking about how everything is going all right, and they're in the middle of this intervention, and his mother's husband directs some frustration toward him and tells him how he basically needs to do better when it comes to his mother. Okay, now Kirk Franklin is about to lose his religion, for the second time.
Don't know who you are, but she's the mother. I'm the child. He says, "Yeah, but you call yourself a Christian." My boy, I retched up and made my way over. I was giving go, and it turned into a whole mess. And it got heated, it got bad, and my mother did something that crushed my heart. She grabbed his hand and said, "Come on, baby, let's go." And she walked out of the house.
Thank you so much, baby father Deshaun, for the audacity piece of child support chat. Thank you, baby father. God bless you. Thank God it's Friday indeed. So you guys just heard Kirk Franklin say that. Well, you guys just heard it. I'll let you play.
Kids. And this other did something that crushed my heart. She grabbed his hand and said, "Come on, baby, let's go." And she walked out of the house on her two kids. And she stood by the side of this NIGGA.
Nigga.
I can't say it because somebody always says something when I say it.
I will.
And walks out with him. And they told me I must have blacked out because they told me what I said. Is they said I followed them outside on the porch. Because you're in the hood, you got porches.
Yes, sir.
They said I walked out and followed them on the porch, and I yelled at my mama, "That's right. Go ahead and walk out like you always do." And the fact that she took that man's hand and she did not say to him, "Baby, you stay over there. This is between me and my kids." Kids that I know I did not raise. Kids that I know I did not nurture. Kids that I know I did not protect. Kids that I know that I did not provide for. Kids that I know that I did not defend. Kids that I did not love. Kids that did not have their mama. You stand over there and let me deal with my kids. She did not deal with her kids. She took that
Nigga.
man's side and walked out with him. And I promised myself Now, see, I couldn't protect myself as a little boy, but as a grown man, I will never be put in a position where you will ever be able to do me like that again. And so for 23 years, I did not see or speak to my biological mother. So when this happened last year, and after all that I've gone through, and to still get these denials, I'm not good, but I'm good. I'm good. For me, there's nothing else. Two DNA tests? You denying 2 DNA tests? I'm good. I got too much to deal with. I can't, at some point.
Now, what you guys may be curious about is, what does Kirk Franklin mean by 2 DNA tests? What I'm going to do is pull up an article real quick to give you context, and then we'll finish that and then get into some commentary. Let me share. Did I switch over my microphone? Yes, I did. Okay. Doing too much at one damn time. All right. This article is courtesy of, well, Google, I guess. After 53 years, Kirk Franklin finds out that his mother lied about his biological father. After 53 years, ace American gospel musician Kirk Franklin realized that the man he thought was his biological father is not his father. He just found out who his real dad was, and his mother is still lying about it and insisting that that's his father, that's not his father, even after 2 DNA tests showed 99.999% match. According to the singer, he went to a burial in the neighborhood where he grew up. One thing led to another, and the man just mentioned that he dated Derby, Kirk Franklin's mom, briefly. That's how the gossip started spreading, and the man willingly accepted for a girl. Whoever wrote this article is crazy. And the man willfully accepted a DNA test and brought his sample for it to be done, and it showed a 99.9%. Frank confronted his mom, who lied and cried and insisted for another test to be done. The second test was done, and it showed the same results, and she still said that it's not true. According to Kirk Franklin, in a documentary released dubbed Father's Day, he didn't receive the love and care a child must have. Not knowing the man that he was calling daddy wasn't his actual father. He went on to add that he rarely even saw his mother. I'm not even going to torture myself through the rest of the article, but his mom denied 2 DNA tests identifying who his paternal father was. Speaks volumes in and of itself. Okay, now back to the interview. Just wanted to give you guys that for a little bit of context.
At some point, you got to save what is still together. Mm-hmm. Ooh, did somebody get that?
No.
At some point, you got to save what's still together.
Yes, Lord.
Because now you can't give them everything to break.
Mm-hmm. You bruise, but you ain't broke.
Yes, sir. But you will be if you give them everything to break.
Because I say this, when I hear you talk about this situation, I'm getting goosebumps listening to it.
That's the first time I've ever talked about that.
Thank you. But I would tell you this. You've allowed your mother to make it right, and she constantly...
In Louisiana at a concert, and I have to do a meet and greet. Do you know that there were these strangers that walked up to me? Cam, God is crazy.
Okay, so we're going to cap it right there. Rumors.
It's so much. It's so much. First, I just thought it was quite interesting that his mother, the right, although she may not have wanted to be in his life, just deny him the right to have access to his father. And the man particularly that she told him was his father, when Kirk found that man, this man treated Kirk somewhat better than the mother, but they didn't have a good relationship. They didn't have a good relationship. So for me, when he was telling this story instantly, like I said, I was able to tap into my healed trauma. Because further down in the interview, you're going to hear what he has to say in this present day about his mom. And I was like, dang, like, this is crazy. But I truly identified with, I knew who my father was. That paternity and stuff wasn't no question. But I can recall times where my mom, because our house was like every 6 months to a year, there was a new man in my mom's life. Although my mom was married for the second time to my sister's dad, that played a role as a father figure along with my father. They would have, you know how I go, they would have a breakup, separation moments in between, and it was just like a revolving door. And it seemed like these men came before her children.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's no worse feeling as a child. I mean, let's look at this equation. He was raised by an older woman from a church or something, a neighborhood that was not biologically his relative. This woman gave him the best that she could give. The mother totally denies it. Kirk didn't find out about his sister, like meet her, until later on in life. They weren't together. Relatives and things of that nature, extended relatives, were not a part of his life. And you go as a kid, you yearn. I tell people this all the time. When you see children that have parents that you know are toxic, let's say people that are substance abusers, whatever the case may be, the children still, no matter how toxic that parent is, they still crave their parents. They still crave their parents. So to openly deny.
Kids are a lot more subjected or have a bigger sense of unconditional love as a result of their innocence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But then you fast forward. Because in my opinion, the only reason why they agreed to that intervention for his sister, I discerned that instantly. It was because of Kirk's celebrity. And when he was saying how the mother was being basically mean-spirited, argumentative, he didn't use those words, but the description he gave is what it was.
Yeah.
She didn't come there for her daughter. Her intentions was never about her daughter. She legitimately came there because her son had a celebrity to himself. And she thought she was going to gain access. Because one thing we all have heard, all of us have heard this, you only get one mother.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought this was something that is a dire need to have this conversation. Because we're taught that the ball of the responsibility falls on the man. And we make not that we ignore it, but we make so light of toxic mothers.
Yeah.
And for me as a mom, because I know the experiences I had with my mother, I am the complete opposite. I find me doing some things as far as because I took the good and I applied it to my children, but I am the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was quite interesting. This is how you knew that, I don't know when you watched it or if anyone else discerned this. This is how I knew that there had to be a conversation between her and that husband, because there was no need for him to come. But there had to be a conversation. The husband probably was the one that talked her into going, again, because of Kirk's celebrity. And thinking that his need, they've reached out. This is the opportunity. This is the opportunity. If you get in, you don't have to go in and take accountability. You his mother. You get in, we good, we set. Because you are his mother. No, sir, she was not his mother. She was his donor. She was the surrogate. She was the surrogate.
Yeah.
And so, although my heart initially started to break for him because I still felt the pain, but then it was like all of a sudden I saw the release when he said, you can't give them everything to break. To me, Kirk Franklin is right now in survival mode.
Yeah.
And in his survival mode, he's on the healing journey. He has tapped into that room, and I don't think he's gotten completely there yet.
No, because he
But
said
I
it.
think
Like he said, I'm not good, but I'm good. So yeah,
I think he's
his
where he
healing is
needs to be.
downloading. He's still on that
Mhm,
journey. Mhm.
mhm. And I don't think it's anything wrong with detaching yourself from individuals that bring nothing to you productive, including those that bore you, including those that carried you and brought you into this world. We've talked about this on previous panels.
Mhm.
She does not have a maternal bone in her. Not a maternal bone in her. And I will be interested to find out what is her story.
Yeah, because it's always a story. Every nobody exists within a vacuum. Everybody has a context. Everybody has a why they are who they are. And going back to what you was just saying, I always say on this platform that the scriptures speak about honoring thy parents, for your days shall be long upon the land. And what a lot of people don't realize about honoring thy parents is that sometimes in order to honor your parents, especially when they are abusive, they're negligent, they are toxic, they are not conducive to your health, sometimes the only way you can honor them is by staying the fuck away from them. That's the only way to honor their ass, because trying to have a relationship, trying to tolerate them, trying to associate with them only brings out the worst in you. So sometimes the only way to actually honor them and to maintain respect and to maintain your mental health is to actually put as much distance there as needed for you to feel safe within yourself first and foremost.
In that scripture
A lot of
text.
people rumors, I just want to add this part right here. A lot of people rumors end up in a very toxic exchange with their toxic parents because the scripture has been weaponized against a lot of Black women and men who have toxic parents and used as a way to force them into some type of relationship, some type of compliance to that toxic parent. And unfortunately, as a result of the weaponization of that scripture and it being taught and used out of context, it's put a lot of Black and brown people who could have respected their parents otherwise in a position to have a lot of regret because they continued via that scripture to use that scripture as a justification to stay close to their trigger, which is the toxic parent or parents. I watched my grandmother do this to, I'm not going to say which grandmama on which side, because I got 3 sides of the family. I got my stepdad side, my biological dad side, and my mama's side. One of my grandmothers had, did this to one of my cousins who had came to the conclusion that her mom was a fucking narc. And trying to have a relationship and deal with her mom and be a good daughter to her mom ended up bringing out the worst in her because my aunt was just super toxic and she was super controlling and super nasty and super unyielding as a mother. And her and my cousin would end up in these contentious arguments. My cousin would sometimes end up cussing my aunt out, you know, calling her a B. I mean, they would really go at it as if they was just two randoms on the street. And once my cousin came to the conclusion that her mom was toxic as hell, this was not conducive to her health, she started to despise and resent her mom. You know, she was like, you know what? I'm cutting her off and I'm blocking her. And I'm leaving, you know, and I don't want to be a part of this, because I don't want to have to mistreat her just to so-called be a good daughter to her. If that's the price I got to pay for answering my phone for her, or for trying to do favors for her, trying to maintain some type of relationship, is that it has to come at the expense of her constantly triggering me, disrespecting me, dishonoring me, then we don't need a relationship. And my grandmother said to her, you need to honor your mom. That's still your mother. And my grandmother completely, you know, and she wasn't trying to be wicked. You know, she really didn't know any better, because she had been taught the same thing. So this was a teaching and an attitude from one generation that rolled over to another generation. But she didn't realize that she was enabling the abuser. She was enabling the trigger. She was enabling the person in the situation who wasn't doing their part in the relationship, and putting all the onus on my little cousin to find a way to navigate her toxic mother, even though she had pulled all of the all of the rabbits out of her hat. The only thing there was left to do was to not do anything, was to not be in any type of relationship. So it's a wild thing, you know, and we have to be careful when we're talking about parents and kids, and just make sure that we don't end up enabling a horrific and horrendous and abusive parent and completely negate the experience of the victim in the situation, which is the kid, whether that kid is a child or that kid is an adult. Go ahead, Rumors and Tea.
Well, to expound a little further, because in that same scripture text,
yeah,
like it ain't even in the next verse, it's in that same verse. It says parents not to provoke their child.
Yep.
And it spoke to everything that you just said. But people, you know, we know people like to pick and choose, you know, in order to keep you suppressed and under their control. Yeah, we see that so often. Because I was taught that. And I'm gonna tell you, it honestly took me having my first son, my oldest son. For I don't know how it worked, but what I do know, it tapped into something for me to have empathy for my mother.
Yeah.
And I recognized instantly that she was a broken person. Because for me, I could not see how someone could carry another living being within themselves as a mother. Because the irony of it is, I didn't grow up with you know, the anger, like deadbeat father syndrome. I didn't grow up with that. My father was married with another family. We only saw him when our churches fellowshipped. You know, he lived 3 blocks away. He never like really came, got us, and did the dad thing with us. But I don't know why. I think it was because I was in the home for a period of time with my mother. But when I had my first son, my oldest son, I was truly able to consciously, and I knew I knew what I was doing. It didn't happen without me being aware of it. I knew that I started to have empathy for her, and I wanted to have a better understanding. So I prayed one of the most sincerest prayers I ever prayed, and I asked God to give me the guidance and the wisdom to approach my mother, because every time I tried to have a dialect with her to come find out why we were like, our relationship was so toxic. It wasn't like that with my other siblings, just me. I wanted to know why. We would get into arguments. We would get into fist fights.
Yeah. Damn.
I mean, fist fights. I mean, I remember at 12 years old, my first time hitting my mom, and I'm not saying it to be, it's nothing braggish, you know. But
from
I
a
was
history.
just, I was so angry. I was so angry because I felt a rejection. And it's something he's going to say later on in the interview. I don't want to,
Okay, so let's keep on
skip
listening
ahead.
then. Okay. Yeah, this is good stuff. Okay, let me turn back over my built-in microphone. Thumbs up, you guys. Please share. We will be dropping the link to let you guys chime in as well.
These strangers walked up to me at the meet and greet and said, Kirk, we just want to apologize to you. I'm like, it's my first time meeting these people. They said, we are the children. We are the children of the man that your mama married. And we heard about what happened. That's him. Wow. And we're sorry because we know him. And we know what he did. And we know the spirit of it. We know because he's our biological father.
Wow.
And we want to say, dude, who? The odds of that. Yeah. The odds of that. You got to be careful how you treat people because we are so closely connected on this planet. 6 degrees, right? 6 degrees. You got to be very careful how you treat people because people still matter.
For sure. We serve a God who forgives.
Okay, let me skip through Cam ass.
But it first starts with us. Hey, once we always. Who wrote this? Nobody but you.
Like my biological mother, Deborah. Because, shout out, love and respect to my biological mother, Deborah, because she still gave me life. So let's still acknowledge the Black Queen and her ability to create life on this planet. So thank you. She did not have to have me. Even though I overheard her when I was 13 tell Gertrude, I didn't want to have him. I wanted an abortion, but you wouldn't let me. I heard her tell Gertrude that when I was 13. It's because I was raised in them trap houses that didn't have doors. You know, there were not doors to the bedroom.
They weren't sealed. They weren't sealed, right?
Bro,
they had a little crack.
Yeah, and I'll never forget that. I remember hearing that. So, but thank you, Gertrude, for encouraging Deborah to have a baby.
Such an amazing woman. Such an amazing just soul. You was describing her as you talk about. We only went to church, home.
That's Gertrude. We're learning how to take pieces of it one day at a time instead of trying to eat the whole cake at one time. You got to take little pieces. And you know, my story, interestingly, Cam, when the documentary came out, it is amazing how so many people of color in this country have the same story. We have really been a displaced race of people. Folk not knowing who their mom and daddy is real time, finding out years later that who they thought was this and not that. It is more common in our experiences as people of color in this Western world we live in than you could ever imagine. And that's heartbreaking. Yeah. It is heartbreaking. I'm not the only one.
So I want to go back a little bit. Well, first and foremost, did he say?
He just spoke about it, about his mom not wanting him.
Okay, so we're gonna touch on that. I just wanted to go back a little bit to when we was talking about the way his mom allowed her husband to pretty much jump into a history and jump into a situation that he didn't have the relationship equity to jump his ass into because nobody even knew him to begin with. This was their first experience of this damn man, was him being present at the intervention for his sister. What's interesting about a lot of the women, like Kirk Franklin's mom from a particular generation, I think this was when patriarchy was still at an all-time high. There was a lot of value around a man. And unfortunately, like a lot of women, particularly Black women, were raised to crown the men who they were intimate with and in intimate relationship to as king. And a lot of Black women treated their man equivalent to that. It was backed up by religion and this idea that the man is the head and the man is the authority and you are to be submissive and you do not defy a man's authority. You are a helpmate to him. You know, there's all this cultural and religious conditioning in order to subjugate the woman, in order to disempower the woman, to dominate the feminine, and coupled with sexism, where women, and then being a minority woman, you had to navigate sexism wrapped up in white patriarchy, which only furthered your dependency upon a man, especially if you were coming into that relationship with children. And I know that back in those days, a stepfather was valued almost even greater than a biological father, because you were seen as quadruple exceptional if you could attract a man who was willing to so-called take in you and your children, who was willing to have you, because it was almost a scarlet letter to be a woman who had already been deflowered, and to so-called come into the relationship with children was looked at as baggage. And if a man will still have you, regardless of how flawed he is, regardless of whatever, for a man to still have you and for you to have a second chance to have a man, and you got children, you got quote unquote baggage, you bringing in luggage, and this man will still have you, you would be an idiot to blow that. And unfortunately, men aren't the only perpetuators of patriarchy. Women participated in reinforcing patriarchy, participated in keeping women in formation, doing the bidding of patriarchy. These ideas a lot of times was passed down by the mothers to their daughters, by the grandmother to the granddaughters, etc. So when you said earlier, Rumors, about you wonder what the story of the mother is, I wonder too, because I know the generation made a lot of the men and women the same. Like, a lot of us had the same grandfather, essentially. A lot of us had the same mothers, essentially, because the culture and Christianity was really being used as a script in order to kind of write out everybody's behavior and perspective and attitude about everything, including gender roles and gender dynamics, and where kids fall within the rank and the hierarchical system within the family, especially when a man is involved. I know that, like, my grandmother, it was literally like the man came first. Like, nobody could even eat dinner in the household until my grandfather got home. And he got fed first, and he got fed second, and then came the children. And these were totally acceptable behaviors, and you'll even find scriptures that seemingly reinforce that idea. So there's a lot of that. How do you feel about some of that?
So the new husband, or the husband, jumping and inserting himself in. I remember when I was in the third grade, came home from school, me and my brothers, and my brother, may he rest in peace, that transitioned, the middle child. He every day, he was a big old Chef Boyardee kid. He would come home and cook, right? So he goes into the kitchen to take out something and cook, because my mom would, we was like latchkey kids when when I was living with my mom. So he would come home and he would be the one to take something out, cook it, real quick stuff. And he started yelling through the house because our refrigerator freezer was empty. Now, at this time, my mom had met this guy. They had been seeing each other, I'm gonna say maybe 2 months tops. Okay, he was supposed to have been Muslim, and We didn't I never see him in any garments or anything, never saw him praying, nothing, you know, but he was supposed to have been Muslim. He had done empty out all of our cabinets, anything that was pork products, emptied out. We were heavy pork eaters, emptied out the deep freezer. There was nothing but vegetables and a pack of chicken, like not a pack of chicken, a whole chicken, which my brother didn't know nothing about cutting up a chicken.
Yeah.
He walked in the house and was like, what is all this fuss? We realized then he had a key to get into our house. Right? And so he goes, what's all this fuss? And so my brother's like, somebody broke into the house. And he like, somebody broke into the house. He like, yeah, they stole all our food. And he says, no, I threw that SHIT in the garbage. Wow. And we're looking. And then he said, and he said, I'm telling you, we don't do no Christmas in this house. I threw all that stuff away. He had went downstairs. My oldest brother ran downstairs to the basement. And this man had went into our storage room and took out anything that did not align up with his particular religious practice and faith.
Wow.
When my mom came home, we were calling her job. We didn't get no answer. She was home about like a half an hour later, 40 minutes later. And we went crying to her. And she told us, he walked in the room and she looked at us and told us to go sit our asses down. That day, me and my oldest brother decided we was running away. We went to our grandmother's house. Now, let me tell you the difference between, I agree with you a lot. I don't know where my mom's mentality for that way of thinking came from, because the women in my family on that particular side of the family were all about, if you was with a bad man, you leave. They pushed. They got in your business. If you was married or with a man that wasn't good to you, baby, you ain't had no choice but to leave, because by the time they got through with you, that was just to avoid the headache.
Yeah.
So I never understood. Now, there were sides of the family that did preach that hard body, but not on our side of the family. So I never understood. I really never understood that. And we went through that quite often. Never with our stepdad, though. Never with our second, stepfather. Never with him, because my mom was married 3 times, but never with him. He made sure that we were included. We had, and it's crazy because my mom taught us that we had a right to our opinions and to voice our opinions. But when we all look back at it, throughout those times that she encouraged and instilled that in us, she was with our second stepfather.
Yeah.
So which let us understand the patterns of our mom. We all felt like, with the exception of my baby sister, we all felt like every time my mother got a man, we couldn't stand them. We didn't like them instantly. Like some of them, we didn't even give a chance, because the pattern of, this man comes before us and we're your children. We don't have a say. Sometimes we're not included. My baby sister was always included. She was the golden child. But the rest, because she was going to go along to get along. She was a child, looked like she was the youngest, like 4 or 5 years old. But the rest of us, it was like we were an inconvenience.
Yeah.
And so I agree 100%. Like, woman, I know, like, woman, why would you, like, if the goal, because I really believe deep down, but maybe her arrogance, maybe her narcissism, maybe her brokenness is so great that she couldn't even tap into anything logical. Well, maybe what she thinks is logical is not logical, but she couldn't even be rational in that moment and tap into her humanity to say to her husband, wait a minute, hold on. Let me handle this. Because you're here to be my moral support. You're not here to intervene on my behalf, whether it's justified or not. And I think a lot, because this is nothing this still happens today. This literally still happens today. I see women walking down the street with their nigga. Maybe it could be the kid's father or a whole nother nigga. And the children are behind them and they're in the front. She's so into this man. A child could run in the street, get hit. If somebody riding by and they want to shoot, in the hood, your child could be like, you're not even covering and protecting your child. Because your whole concern is on this man.
Yeah. It could, well, two things. It could have been the culture, because we know from the data, even around like raising kids, that regardless of what you teach kids in the household, sometimes the culture can be more powerful than what's being reinforced in the house, which a lot of times bring into question the culture and how it's contributing to a lot of the bullcrap that's happening in society, because sometimes society will trump the values of the family. It'll trump whatever the teachings of the family are. Also, I wonder for your mom if it could have been, because when I think about like patriarchy and what it conditioned, how it conditioned men and women to think, like if you were raised up in an era where even sexism had appropriated the matrix to support the gender roles, like we're not even really going to allow women to work like that and to have like quality jobs at that, to have like low level entry jobs that pay a penny on a white man's dollar.
Conscious, that wasn't the case. My mom's mother's side of the family were businesswomen, like that, businesswomen. These people, like, they didn't have, like, they were, some of them were married, but they were like, the roles was different. Like they were the ones fixing stuff, changing tires, buying.
Well, that's what I was about to say. That's what I was about to say. Like, because the system was also collaborating with the whole gender role thing. I wonder if, like, even though women did those things, the reality could have been for a lot of women, they didn't want to, though. They did it because they had to. They did it because there was no man to do it for them. So if you fucked around and so-called looked up and got a man, you know, you held on to your little piece of man. And at that time, it was valued that a piece of a man was better than no man at all.
Right.
So now I can mitigate some of this task as a woman that I'm having to do in my everyday life, that I'm having to do in the family, by relying on a male partner. He can help to pay the bills. He can take care of the car and the house. He can take over some of the
man, them niggas wasn't doing none of that. They was just giving her the pipe straight up, like straight up. But I know what you mean in general.
I'm not saying if men, I'm not saying like if men actually effectively did it or not, but I'm just saying like the idea, because ultimately for your mom to have put up with your stepfather, there was something in her and something about his contribution to y'all's life that she felt was valuable, whatever the hell that was. Or maybe it had nothing to do with y'all. It was all about mama getting her needs met. It was about it was about the companionship, which does make mom selfish as fuck, for her to prioritize only herself, regardless of what the experience is for her kids and what it would cost her kids emotionally, psychologically, mentally. It's just so crazy to look back on the era that our parents came from and our grandparents came from. And when you just go back and back and back and back, because there was so many moving parts that supported kind of the dysfunction of it all.
Yep. It was. I mean, like I said, when I had my son, I was able to have the conversation with her. Because like Kirk, my mom told me one day when she was beating my ass, I had to be like 7. I knew I should have left you in the hospital. I shouldn't have went back and got you.
Wow.
And it was so vicious. Oh my God. That's when the rebel and the toxicity entered into my heart and into my mind. I did not look at her, because the irony of it is, growing up, until I was about 6, I called my mother by her first name, and I called my grandmother mama. Everybody else called her mama, but I thought she was my
a representative of your volume had went out. if you can hear me, or we can't hear you. Still can't hear you. You might have to go out and come back in. Okay, I think she's gonna go out and come back in. You guys, a thumb up. When Rumors in Tea was talking about Kirk Franklin, and talking about when she was talking about her own experience of her mom, and pretty much, okay, she's back.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. All right, you can continue.
Okay. So yeah, so I'm not gonna go all the way into I already talked about this before, but she, I remembered that, and I carried that for years, like pretty much the rest of my childhood, even into my adulthood. I literally was 28 years old when I decided to forgive my mother, and not just forgive her, but to accept the fact that she was a human being as well. I learned throughout,
too.
Right. I learned throughout the years things like this. Some of my trusted relatives decide to share certain things with me, and it's basically a generational curse. And so what's interesting is today I was talking to one of her first cousins, right? And we were talking. My sister is going, as wonderful as I saw my stepfather, we just realizing the toxicity that he carried. My mom, you talked about this a little bit on Nosey's Tea on Top of Tea when y'all had the panel about how we as far as attracting certain energies, you can attract the opposite, or you can attract what is like you, right? And my father, my stepfather, and my mom all were broken. I mean, they had their severe childhood trauma of rejection, of just gruesome, like a lot. It's real deep and heavy.
Yeah.
And so I was able to understand, like I said, with other people disclosing things, I saw a pattern, and I said, oh my God. I was telling my cousin, I said, there was literally a generational curse that most of us do not recognize as a curse, but all of our families have this generational curse. Yeah. And I said, and I'm glad that I was able to break the cycle to the best of my ability, break the cycle, you know what I mean? Because two things happen. You either become your parents or the opposite of your parents. Yeah. But even becoming the opposite of your parents, even the ones that are absent, you develop those characteristics in some way. Now, how extreme you carry out those characteristics depends on your level of consciousness and staying aware, to be the opposite. But that's a daily, that ain't even daily. That's like a second by second thing.
Yeah.
And absolutely. So, one of the comments was, if Kirk if he went through that with his mother, why would he do that to Kerrion? Exactly what I just said is the reason why, because he's not healed all the way. He's not completely healed. And sometimes you don't realize that you're operating in your brokenness that way because you can't see beyond your own pain. You have tunnel vision.
And you have an unconscious self. That's operating. A shadow self is things that we do unconsciously and things that we do consciously. And I want to touch on that too, because I want us to get into Kerrion. I want to speak to Fatima's comment that says that, isn't it funny, foreign or domestic, the United States or kingdom, we almost have the same story. The shit is just terrible. Because when the interesting thing about it is the reason why everybody got the same story is because when you have similar cultures, aka patriarchal cultures, you're going to get the same outcomes. And this is why societal norms, we have to always explore them. We have to, like, when we see pathologies collectively and pathologies like within communities, within families, it's because you're operating according to a similar culture or the same culture. And it's going to be the same outcome around the board, which is why a lot of, when we use the term patriarchy, we're talking about like systemic issues. We're talking about something that's much deeper than just men overhauling the system and controlling the system. But this male-mindedness is sexist, and sexism objectively personifies itself economically, politically, in the lives of the feminine, in the lives of females, which is why women have had to fight for their right to vote, their right to own property, their right to be valued outside of their alignment to a man. Women are still fighting right now for their reproductive rights and their own personal biological autonomy. You know, it goes on and on and on. In the Middle East, women are still under attack. Femicide is at an all-time high globally. Like, to be born a female in certain nations makes you prey. And they are literally unaliving and hunting women in the Middle East simply for being female. They are mutilating women's genitals in foreign countries. They are tormenting and enslaving and exploiting and unaliving women at dangerous rates all across the world. So when you have these systems, I'm not surprised that people's experience is the same, and people have been through practically similar or identical scenarios. And when Rumors and Tea was talking about, like, she wasn't really able to get to a better place and forgive her mom until she opened up her humanity and then recognized her mom's humanity. That was my exact story too. I think most of us growing up, we idolize our parents according to the title. We don't really realize that our parents are actually human at all. We see them ideally. We see them in this poetic fashion. And when they cannot live up to that and they're not that, we end up being deeply scarred and internalizing that disappointment and internalizing that mistreatment and internalizing the breakdown of who we thought our parents were. And it's usually not until you get older and you mature in your thinking, you live a little bit, that you are able to then see, oh my God, just like I am a product of my upbringing and I'm a product of what happened to me. My mom and dad were also young people at some point. They also were kids. My mom was a little girl who had a father, and her father was in some ways a hero and in some ways a maniac. Her mother was in some ways a hero and in some ways a maniac. And it does change your outlook on your parents once you actually humanize them. Matter of fact, humanizing anybody typically moves you into being able to be more compassionate, empathetic, sympathetic, and understanding of the circumstances that made people who they were, even though the judgment against them is still justified. And it wasn't until I became a man that I was able to humanize my mom, because my mom was both a hero and she was problematic in ways too. And I was a mama's boy. So I took, you know, everything personally, because my mom, more so than my father figures, was who I really wanted the bulk of my affection from. Obviously, being a young man who also had an unusual connection to femininity, I needed that feminine affirmation and I needed that feminine nurturing. And obviously, with the issues around sexuality and all of that and religion, my mom wasn't able to be present for me in helping me to navigate my own femininity. as a man. And when I say femininity, I'm not talking about like the shallows of femininity. I'm not talking about like aesthetics and here I'm talking about like feminine in terms of having a very strong emotional body, being deeply intuitive, being deeply empathic, being unusually artistic, having just a great capacity for understanding and understanding, because not having those particular traits nurtured in me allowed me to just have a very flimsy journey with my empathy. You know, I ended up being a people pleaser in situations that I shouldn't have been. I ended up putting people largely ahead of myself in my life, even as a young person. I fell into some dangerous territory because all this capacity to nurture myself and to nurture others, all this capacity, all this love, all of this sensitivity I had, I didn't understand it. And at times it just made my life a living hell because I didn't understand that sensitivity. I didn't have anybody to guide me. And in the patriarchy, there was going to be nobody who was going to guide me. I was a man, therefore I'm not supposed to be sensitive. I'm not necessarily supposed to be compassionate. I'm not supposed to necessarily have a humanity. I'm supposed to be stoic. I'm supposed to be emotionally unavailable. I'm supposed to be robotic, but yet that wasn't my personal reality. Like I had something else that was living alongside my masculinity, and it was this femininity. And so, you know, I really yielded toward my mom because I wanted to understand the part of me that came from her, the part of me that came from my grandmother, because I believe that they're the ones who passed down that empathic trait to me. They passed down because all of the women in my family, as much as they were flawed, were some of the most communal, sacrificial, strong women that I've ever known in my life. They literally were the backbone of the family. They were literally the backbone of the marriages. They were the backbone. They were flawed, yes. They were not perfect, but they definitely were the pillars, ultimately, to the community. And forgiveness, a lot of times, is connected to understanding. And understanding where people come from, including our parents and the world that they came up in. This helped me to forgive my mom of not being able to be affirming of me as a queer person, because I realized that she wasn't taught to. And I don't think that's an excuse, because if somebody that you love is telling you how to love them and you're in place to love them, then regardless of what the hell you've been taught, this is your opportunity now to be untaught. This is your opportunity to not yield to the culture, to not yield to conditioning, to not yield to how things were when you were growing up, but to yield to what the fuck the circumstances call for right now. Regardless of that, I still understood that that takes an incredible amount of willpower a lot of times, especially when you're asking 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old people to change things that were taught to them to be normal and things that were taught to them to be abnormal. And it's just difficult in general for people to change just negative traits within themselves, period, yet alone negative traits that were affirmed by the culture and normalized by the culture and greenlit and permitted by the culture. And I really feel bad for, you know, women like yourself and so many men and women like Kirk and so many of us who had emotionally unavailable moms. My mom was emotionally unavailable too. You know, she was stoic, and she was stoic because she had a simp as a baby daddy, my biological father, and she had a simp as a husband, my stepfather. As much as I love him, he was a simp of a husband, and he was a simp of a stepfather. He's a different man now, so glory be to God. He's a better man. He's a different man. He's did a whole 360, but man, like, I really believe that a lot of the toxic behavior of toxic moms came heavily from the culture itself. And I think the culture needs to take the stand. I think the culture needs to be indicted. I think the culture needs to be sentenced and abolished ultimately, which is why I'm glad that we're living in a time now where we are dealing with the scathing effects of patriarchy, the way that this transformed generations, the way that informed women about themselves, about their relationship to men. A lot of that shit was cultural. And
it definitely was cultural, and still in a large way today. It's just shaped differently. Because it seemed like it just got a little rambunctious, but it has become such the norm that no one is disgusted. And as a mom and as a former child that experienced this, I'm appalled. And I speak out against this, like, not just to my relatives, friend. I'm a talker anyway. And so, like, if I see it, I'm going to speak to it. I don't, think everybody's going to do that, but I think that we should. And I don't mind getting pushback. I don't mind nobody being defensive, because here's the thing. My mom was aware of the things she was doing, and I'm pretty sure Kirk's mom is aware of what she's doing. However, although they are intentional about what they're doing, again, they're coming from a place of brokenness themselves. And they haven't been able to be comfortable. So because they're not comfortable, they can't be vulnerable. A lot of times we think we know things about ourselves that we never truly acknowledge it. And for me, one of the ways that I learned to acknowledge, if I really want to change my behavior about anything, my posture, I say it out loud. Because even though I know it, I think it, saying it out loud makes it tangible.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, we know that this is, in my opinion, it is factual. A lot of people are afraid. One is, I always say this because people are lazy, but not even just being lazy. I think that some people like use their anger and their brokenness as a crutch. Some people want to remain angry because anything on the opposite side of that doesn't seem rational to them, because in their mind they don't understand. They're talking and thinking, not talking, but thinking from a broken, like a fractured place. In their thinking, it is more logical to be angry than to heal, move on, and be happy. Because this person deserves to be called out and punished for hurting me. I was literally defenseless. I was a child. That's what Kirk said. He could not protect himself back then because he was a child.
Yep.
And their posture sits in a place of, you're no longer going to hurt me. I am not a child. I am no longer defensive. So they stay tied to that, not understanding two things can be true at the same time. Healing and being happy does not mean that you have to, especially if you don't trust this person, because that's not only have they caused injury, they've also broken your trust in them. And it is okay to forgive, to heal, and still not trust.
Yeah.
Some people only need one time. This is why I said earlier, I realized that I was healed in my trauma. I literally identified with this man, but I was not triggered up.
Yeah.
And I said, damn, my mom, I knew that me and my mom, before she left this, I knew me and my mom had the Matter of fact, like I said, my sister, I was saying how I used to rank us in order. My sister was my mom's favorite. When my mom left here, I was her favorite. I wasn't a competition or anything, but that's how close my mom and I had gotten. So I'm like, damn, hell. And I said, this is what people have to understand. Because we're taught that if we separate ourselves from people, that we're not healed. No. What I'm doing is putting this roadblock because I've set a standard.
Yeah.
I clearly meet the standard to be in this person's life because they want me in their life. They have not walked away. But they don't live up to my standard.
Yeah.
And my standard is for my well-being. These boundaries are put in place for my protection because you have harmed me. I didn't injure you. You injured me.
Yeah.
And you haven't shown me anything to say I am safe with you. So I respected when he said that. I said, damn. Two things, as we say all the time, can be true at the same time. Yes, he could have fucked up when it came to Kerrion and still been an injured party himself. And still been an injured party himself when it comes to this whole dynamics. I love the fact that I see what I'm hearing from him, because I'm not even a big, like, Kirk Franklin, like, he ain't my guy. He don't really do it for me. But talented, all of that. But what I saw was his humanity in this conversation. I was like, damn. Is this what we need more of? I'm glad we're having these type of conversations. I'm glad people are speaking up and not being ashamed to speak out.
Yeah.
Because he's taking the chance of whatever relationship he do have, because I can imagine that he has a clingy nature to him because he has this void in his life, right? He could have risked jeopardizing the extended family. I don't know if they not or they are, but he's risking them, like losing them as well. Because you know how, like we don't been talking about how families are. That, regardless if she wrong or right, you shouldn't be talking about your mama like that, yada yada yada. And it's just weird to me because it is okay for mama to sit up here and fuck me over repeatedly. And y'all want to make me the fault? Do you remember when he did the little documentary or when him taking the DNA test with his now biological father?
I never watched it. I heard so much about it at the time, but I never got around to watching it.
Yeah, in that video, so he went to his mom. He went to the mother.
Mm-hmm.
The sister, one of her sisters went with him. She had to beg her to let him come in and have this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So they allowed the cameras in, but I think they allowed the cameras in and they just didn't either. They allowed the cameras in and they couldn't show, like, video her, but Kirk was mic'd up, or either they didn't let the cameras in and he was still mic'd up. But even in that instant, he didn't even allow too much of the audio to play. But when it was all said and done, his aunt was telling him basically he was wrong. He was saying he was done with the mom. Like he had not a DNA. I think it was once the DNA test came, he was just like done with her because she kept denying it, just kept denying it. And he was done. Like he was like damn near begging her, like, okay, you clearly lied. He didn't go in there hostile. He went in with grace and compassion. And this woman would not give, all he wanted her to say and acknowledge was he had the proof. He just wanted her to acknowledge it. He wasn't even looking for her to go into details. He just wanted her to acknowledge it. And she refused. And that aunt that was there, I think her name was Sandra, she literally told Kurt he was wrong. So he's risking whatever relationship he does have with that side of his family. He's like willing to risk to tell his truth because it does need to be discussed. And anybody, I don't care who it is, never let anyone guilt trip you when it comes to your emotional well-being, when it comes to you as a human being, what you are entitled to. You're entitled to respect, and you're entitled to love, and you're entitled to compassion and understanding and nurturing. You're entitled to that. And you should never think that you don't deserve that. Anybody that will make you feel that way, they are not for you. You need to separate yourself from them.
So two things there that are interesting to me, because I didn't see the documentary. Bring the Mess said, oh, you should watch it, it's really good. Sometimes I don't watch things because I've had to watch people in real life live this shit out. So it's really not something I need to see played out, you know, by some public figure in their own life, because I got aunts who had to go through this. I got uncles who had to go through this with my grandparents. So, you know, Kirk is just one of many. And it's hurtful and it's devastating. And sometimes you just don't want to keep exposing yourself to real life shit. It's like why I don't report on every death of a trans person, or every death of a queer person, or every death of a, you know, another black person slain, because it's like it's literally real life. So it's like there's no point sometime to me in having to relive things that are going, that's just a part of what you're having to survive. So that was a big reason why I wasn't interested in watching it, because I've had to go through this type of family drama in my own family and watch my aunts and uncles go through this shit. But I was going to say to Kirk Franklin's situation, he had every right to hold his mother accountable because she lied. It would have been one thing for her to not want to speak on, well, it's no excuse. But what's interesting is I was thinking like, well, why would she have wanted to disown or deny the results? Two things could be possible. Maybe her experience of his father was traumatic. Maybe there was sexual abuse. Maybe there was physical abuse. We know that was also very prevalent at that time. Women were still largely treated like property, and rape, you know, was very vaguely defined, especially amongst minority folk. So there could have been trauma that was associated with his father. Two, I was thinking to myself, rumors that there was also a heavy stigma on being like a hoe in that time. Like you literally, a lot of families would ship you off if you were promiscuous, or if you were a teen who was pregnant. They would ship you off to another state just to not bring any shame to the family. My grandmother used to tell me all type of horror stories about how young girls in the community would be there one minute, they would get pregnant, you know, as a teenager, as a 15-year-old, etc., and they'll be shipped off up north, never to be seen again, to be raised by their grandparents, etc., because it was considered shameful to be a teenager and pregnant. And there was a lot of stigma connected to just being an adult woman and being single and with child without a man or a husband. And if you had like children from different men, at that, it just deepened the stigma and the shame of it all. So I was thinking to myself, like, if she admitted to the DNA tests, what then she would have to do is confront the shame around not knowing who the hell her baby daddy was this whole time, which then would allude to the fact that maybe she was more promiscuous than what she has communicated to her community, to her children. And because in that era there was a stronger judgment around being sexually liberated and sexually active and participated in casual sex and premarital sex, you know, she wasn't willing to deal with all of that connected around acknowledging the truth. Like, then I'm gonna look a fool in front of my community because I just knew who the father of my children was, and I've been telling everybody who their dad was, and how embarrassing is it that I couldn't even keep up with my own vagina, that I couldn't even keep up with. And then I'm also admitting that I've had unprotected sex with multiple men if I've misidentified who the father was, you know. And so once again, not excuse, but I'm just trying to find the explanations and find the context, because once again, I think the culture contributes largely to why women of that generation suffer and why they behave the way that they do. I have a grandmother who, one of my aunts went on a mission a few years ago. She wanted to know who her father was. My grandmother had told her who the guy was, but the guy was dead by the time that my aunt became interested in reconnecting. And then there was a family friend who looks just like my aunt, and he looks just like one of my uncles. And he actually told her one day that he was actually the father of her and the father of my uncle, who they looked like a spitting image of. And at one point he had agreed to a DNA test. My grandmother got like visibly agitated, apparently. She felt the way about my aunt going over her and following up with, you know, this individual who was saying that, you know, he actually was the dad. And my aunt ended up not going through and allowing him to do the test out of respect for my grandmother, even though this had meant a lot to my auntie, because she always has suffered from a father fracture her whole life. She had to be raised by my mother's father, who was in the house, who acted as her stepdad. She always struggled, according to what I understand, as a teenager. You know, as it relates to her father, and not really having a relationship to her father and all of that, and, you know, all of that identity stuff. So it's still unclear who is my aunt's father, and it's pretty much my grandma's word for this person's word. And it's just very sad on both parts, because I understand why my grandma would have issues around whatever the truth may be. And it may be, like somebody just said, slut shaming, just all of the brutal judgment that women were under at that time. It could be trauma, I don't know, but
Yeah, I definitely so I discern a couple of things about the mom as well. That's why I said I'm just interested. I don't think she will ever do it, but I would love to see that. I think for Kirk, he just, even though he had the answer, because there was in the chat, there were people that was like, just leave well enough alone. She don't want to be bothered, while you putting yourself through this, you can't blame your mother no more. You're grown. You found the answer. You know who your father is. Just move on. Leave her alone and stuff like that. And I remember commenting, saying all he wants to do is feel like he matters to his mother. He wants her to show him that he matters. That's why he wanted her to just say, I lied.
But you know what's unfortunate?
I said she's never gonna get that, but that's all he's looking for. But parents have, especially moms, have a really hard time admitting when they have wronged their children in any kind of manner. They struggle with, especially situations like this. And I feel, because I too, like you, I got stories for days. Sometimes I sit and say, I'm gonna just go live one day and just do story time, because I got stories for days. Okay, but I remember telling a good friend of mine, because she had a situation like that with her son, and unfortunately, this man had been coming around throughout his lifetime, on and off. Like, he'll see him once a year, maybe twice, but never as his father. He just thought this was a family friend. And then he called his son 3 weeks before he passed away. He died suddenly. And so his mom was denying that this was his father. And he looks identical to this man. He looked identical to this man, okay? And I had to tell her, I said, I love you, but I'm going to tell you something. You're selfish as fuck. Because all he wants is answers. And you're worried about how you're going to look to him. At the end of the day, believe it or not, when children get a certain age, we've all been there. You get a certain age, it's like one day your mind is awakening to the reality of things. You may not always know how to, the right words to speak into, to describe it, but you're aware of your parents. You see all the good. Remember, our parents do everything, have done just about everything in front of us. So we know our parents better than anybody, as you know what I mean, even when it comes to their own parents at some point, because we see it, I'm like, you're sitting up here worried about your image, but your image has already been exposed. Your image has already been exposed. So why not give him what he needs? And I would say the same to Kirk's mother. Sweetheart, we already saw your slip. It was hanging. We all saw it. And that is okay. Listen, all of us have fallen short in life. Some of us have gotten up and some of us haven't. Some people's fall was harder than others. But we've all had some things that we had to work through. Some things that if we live to tell it, we ain't so proud about it.
But here is the thing, rumors. It's magnified by Kirk's celebrity, and everything about his celebrity challenges every bit of the culture she came from, like identity politics, respectability politics, and her admitting that would be giving him permission to plaster her sins and her ignorances and her flaws on a worldwide stage. Most people, as we know, everyday people can barely fucking admit to their sins, even when it's one-on-one and it's incubated within an intimate community, yet alone do that before everybody, because Kirk would obviously take whatever his experience is and whatever information gotten from his mom, and that would be something he would put out in interviews or in documentaries, etc. And I wonder if that's also what's contributing to the mom not wanting to own up to a lot of significant things that she needs to, is because she can't overcome that part of it.
See, here's the thing, though. Why to me, I can't see that, because I feel like they ran their asses over there for that intervention just because of his celebrity. But I believe that
to align with that celebrity about your own shit is another thing.
No, I was going to say, I also believe that what should have been conveyed, maybe he wasn't willing to offer anything, because I can understand that, and I could stand with him on that. However, she could have made it clear through her sister. She could have made it clear. I'm willing to have a conversation with him, but I do not want this publicized. I'm willing to give him what he say he needs. I just don't want this publicized. I am willing to personally do whatever I have to do, but I want to keep this private. I want to keep this private from his force because enough is already being revealed as far as to the public. But if I was him, I would have just basically told her, listen, you want me in your life? You want access to this? You want me in your life? Because there has to be a part of him that knows or feels that. You want me in your life, woman? This is what you have to do to earn your right in my your place in my life. But I don't think that
her husband over him.
Remember what Kirk said? He said him and his mother are just alike. He said that.
And guess who's also just like the both of them? His son,
Kerrion.
Firecracker, expressive, don't take no shit, is going to call out the uncomfortable parts, are going to pull the curtain back and expose.
And then you see how short Kurt is. He got that Napoleon complex too. You double down on that. Like, you just think about all of those things that's added into the equation or whatever the case may be. But honestly, above all, I do think that he's doing the absolute right thing and what's best for him. Because if he ain't never say nothing, if he ain't never give nothing else to me, it just was a whole word. When he said, again, why give them everything to break? Why give them everything to break? Enough has been done to me. You don't have to tell me too many times. Your actions, I follow people's actions. Words mean nothing to me.
Yeah.
But you don't have to tell me nor show me too many times before I get the message. And at some point, that's taking accountability and ownership. That's another part of the healing. That's taking accountability and ownership, which leads to more healing for you. Because people can only do to us what we allow them to do. As long as you give these people access that are doing harm to you, they're going to do it. Why expect a freaking lion not to bite you? A lion is a lion. We know what they do. Why expect for them to come and lay by you and purr? Their first natural instinct is to maul you the hell down.
This is why a big part of healing is about understanding that this is your journey. And just because you ready for this don't mean everybody that hurt you and everybody that had a role in breaking you is on that same journey. And he's trying to pull his mom into a level of consciousness and accountability that she would only be able to step into with action if she too, in fact, was ready to heal and had been doing her work. But unfortunately, she hasn't. She's not ready for her own healing, and therefore she can't give him what he's looking for because she hasn't even given it to herself. She hasn't even sat through the uncomfortable, shame-driven, dark regions of her own lived experience and resolved that as a woman to be able to give him what he deserves as an offspring who had to inherit her choices and the outcomes of her choices and had to inherit the condition that she was in. Because as children, we're all entitled to these answers and into love and treatment. And because the world isn't ideal, people, and this is why we talk a lot about conscious parenting. And this is why, like, I put my foot on the necks of parents who are not parents yet. Like those who already have their kids, you know, they already got them. But for those who don't, I'd be like, take your time and do your fucking work because your children are going to pay for it. Like the scriptures say, the sons will inherit the sins of their fathers. There's going to be spillage. There's going to be transfer. Your children are going to inherit the outcome of your choices in life, your educational choices, your economic choices, your interpersonal choices, your medical choices, your physical choices, whatever the outcomes were, your children inherit that. Whatever condition you in, your children inherit that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you
And
know what else is interesting, Conscious? Not what's interesting. So I know that his mother is not emotionally intelligent, nor is she a critical thinker, because Kirk has been very public in interviews discussing his former porn addiction and how he used to jack off all the time. And I would think that if the case would be that his mom lived a promiscuous life, that would have been a moment for her to feel like, okay, me and my son have something that we can bond over and identify with, like feel a level of comfortability and seeing him as a human being and being able to relate. Because at first I was thinking that, they were looking at him as far as the celebrity, but also like a deity. Because, we know how people put anyone of a certain tax bracket, up on a pedestal. We've seen people literally change their whole character when certain people enter the room because of their financial status, right? And I was like, maybe that's, she's looking at him in a way like he's above her. He would never understand and yada yada yada. But when he was discussing those things, I'm like, why? Maybe for me, I understand and I do agree with you. However, I still don't understand. It just feels super intentional.
In terms of what?
That she's denying him. Like, it almost feels like,
of course it's intentional.
I would want to go with the possibility of there being some, like she was assaulted in some way. I want to go with that because that would be more logical to me, because I don't understand not seeing seeing your child as a mom. Like,
it also,
that's why I said she don't have that maternal instinct.
It's because when we talk about parenting, and literally this is why I say everything that I always say on this platform, it's because when it comes to parenting, it's so nuanced. Not everybody is having a child for the sake of a child. She could have had Kirk as a result of trying to keep his father, not really because she was interested in being a mom, which is why she's so disconnected. Which is
the lady that raised him basically made her keep him.
That's what I'm saying. So you got like all that, like you got people who had unwanted pregnancies and then were forced into being the caregiver and obviously failed at it because it wasn't something they were looking for. Like they got pregnant just as a result of having sex, not necessarily got pregnant intentionally. And then you got people who get pregnant intentionally, but they're getting pregnant for all the wrong reasons. They're getting pregnant to fill the void of their own loneliness. They are having children for the sake of a check. They are having children for the sake of trying to keep their partner or keep the person who, they are obsessing over, like, because all these type of like circumstances and intentionalities are there. Not everybody who has a kid is necessarily equipped to be a parent, and is obviously reflected in situations like Kirk, where clearly this definitely gives,
I think it's so.
How old was his mom when she got pregnant with him?
I don't even know. I really don't.
Who forced her through the pregnancy?
The lady that raised him, the lady from the neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah. So
I think that's why. But is so, everything that I've seen so far, she's been so vicious about. Her response has been vicious. So it always comes from a place of hate. And I guess the maternal instinct in me really kind of struggles with a mother being that detached from her child that she can't have compassion, emotion, humility. Like, I don't comprehend that myself personally. Now, although I experienced
trauma around it, like
but that's what I was saying. I think it had to be I think it had to have been something so traumatic. That's why I don't want to assume, or why I can't say not assume, because I did think she might have been loose initially. But if that's even a term, whatever that means. But I don't know. Again, I really feel like it's my maternal instance as a mom. I know what I felt like as a child, but as a parent myself, it's kind of hard with me to. I can't identify. It's not logical. It's not rational. It doesn't even feel natural. It doesn't feel natural to me.
It's not natural.
And so it's kind of just. It feels demonic. I mean, I'm telling you, it just felt so vicious. It felt vicious to me.
Because it's not really the demonization of her. Like the trauma is what's actually demonic. It's the circumstances that create this type of outcome that's demonic. It's the circumstances and the variables that create this. Human beings, like, we're not like other species of anything. Like every other species, they have a short learning period and a short learning curve with their parents, and they're not off to be what they are for the rest of their life. While humans require dependency, the human babies require a large gap of dependency before there's independency on the human offspring's part, and we require a teaching and tutelage. And if there's nobody there to show us the right way, there's nobody there to do the right thing, there's nobody to demonstrate to us how things should be done, if the system that you are nested in is improper and flawed and dysfunctional as fuck. I mean, most people, not everybody, because not everybody is a byproduct of their environment, but generally speaking, most people are, because it's just what logically happens. Like whatever your normal was becomes the normal you demonstrate to other people. So whether it's like abuse, if you were raised in it as a man, if you were taught that women are lesser and you watch your mom put up with men abusing her, you watch like your dad use violence as a way to regulate, then you're gonna tend to have abusive tendencies yourself, generally speaking. If you are a young girl who watched your mom subjected herself to that, you typically are going to rationalize abuse in your own life from the men in your life. And that's why we call it a generational, because it's like the culture and the system is creating this, which is why like we got to have these conversations, and we got to like challenge, and we got to like bring awareness to the dysfunction of it all, in order to curb things that are being passed down from family to family, person to person, culture to culture. Kirk Franklin, in a way, what people told him is correct. It's like at some point, yes, you can seek it out, seek whatever you feel you need to seek out from your mom, but you're also pigeonholing your own healing by making your healing about her. You got to make your healing about you. And at some point, you got to let her go and actually focus on what you're actually here to do. Because if you continue to make your salvation about her, she can't save you. And no answer from her can save you either. And no, like whether she loves you or not, it's still not even the answer either. Because if you're just using her acceptance and her love as a way to fill this void, you're still in the wrong direction. You're in a better direction, but you're still in the wrong direction, because you cannot look to and depend upon other people to make you whole, including your parents, regardless of how fucked up they were. It's not about them. Once you can be accountable for your own condition, once you are cognitive enough to be accountable for your own condition, you have to situate your condition. you have the full responsibility of making yourself well. Parents and people who have reproductive ability, or people who even want to adopt, people who just want to have kids, don't take on this responsibility if your ass is not well. And don't allow anybody to force you into anything, whether it's forcing you into labor, forcing you into pregnancy, force you into whatever. You have a sworn duty to provide the best life you can for your offspring, and you have a sworn duty to be the best version of yourself for the sake of your offspring, who deserve as clear of a path forward as possible. It's fucked up. Like I find the whole thing fucked up. You know, like I find I'm finding myself empathizing with Kirk and his mother. I find both of their circumstances to be deplorable, saddening, and to me it just reflects back to the fuckery of the system and the matrix that we're all subjected to. But even going back to the honesty part, Kirk does want a lot of answers from his mom, and she deserves, and he has a right to seek those things out from her. But he doesn't have a right to seek those things from her if it continues to cause him injury. He should love himself enough to not do that to himself. If he can't seek it without it hindering and destroying him in the process. But going back to even his relationship to his own son, something is missing in the Kerrion Kirk Franklin story, because Kirk is going through all this with his own parents, his own mother. What happened in your relationship to your son? And we were talking about this offline, but I was curious to know if at any point in the interview did they talk about his son seemingly alluding to and accusing him of molesting him, and or if the situation came up at all. Like, how do you feel about the fact that your son admitted that somebody sexually violated him? Like, how have you dealt with that? Have you and him had a conversation about that? Like, because it's almost like, based upon the way Kerrion has acted and reacted, I mean, it from this perspective, like from the outside in, it looks like he didn't do any better with Kerrion than his mom did with him. Because Kerrion has all the same indictments against his father that Kirk has against his mother.
You know what's interesting? Because while you're saying that, I'm just thinking about with the question that was asked about Kerrion, and he responded, and I felt like accountability was given, but I still don't feel like it's 1,000%. I think he spoke to the question, but I wish he would have went and expounded a little further. Because it's not even like, for me, it's just all about not knowing their business, not wanting to know their business. But if you're gonna put stuff out there, I'm thinking you're doing it so it could be a learning moment, teachable moment. And so,
tell all your business the way that you want to tell all of your mother's business.
No. I'm saying, like, I'm not in it for the salaciousness, right? So, but I feel like it needs to be discussed because it was put out there.
Yeah, it's a part of
and because a lot of the stuff, like you say, he put his mother's business out there, what was going on with him, his life or whatever. And I just feel like when things are out there, speak to it fully or whatever. But
I'm also
what I will say,
I'm also saying that it's hypocritical to want to drag all of the shame-driven parts of your mother's lived experience out into the open for everybody to know, and then you yourself can't sit in an interview and speak specifically to the uncomfortable things that your son has drudged up and that has been put out there in the public about you. Like, this is Kirk's opportunity to demonstrate to his mother how it's done.
I agree.
And him not doing that is hypocritical. To avoid that question, to avoid the fact that your son is on a recording, walking into a room where your song is playing and saying to his roommate at the time, why are you playing my molester or my rapist? And to not speak to that at all, to not deal with that at all, but you're trying to constantly put your mom in a situation to be uncomfortable, rightfully so. I'm just saying, Kirk has to understand
the pendulum swing both ways.
His son has a right and is doing the same to him, and him not stepping up to the task is hypocritical because he deeply desires his mother to be able to take the stand and to take her lashings and to take her persecution and to live up to the transparency of it all. And he's in a situation with his own son who is exposing things and openly talking about, his experience of his father. And he's selective about what he talks about that has come to the public. Like, he will address cussing his son the fuck out, and he will address his son coming out as a bisexual. But what about the big elephant in the room, which is your son alluding to the fact that you molested him or sexually violated him? Or even if you're not going to deal with that, how are you just avoiding the fact that everybody knows because of this recording that went viral that your son has been violated? Like, how did that happen under your watch? Because that apparently happened under your watch. How can you not really speak to that? And then how can you be out here like wanting that from your mother, but you can't even really give that to your son, and you can't even give that to the public yourself? Like, you can't even do it wholeheartedly. So he should be able to also empathize with his mother as well. He should be able to understand what being in the spotlight and doing these exposés and having transparency in the context of the world stage and dealing with very uncomfortable parts of one's life, like how deep that can be.
I think somebody should send this live to Kirk's DMs, because I do think
tagging celebrities from now on.
I really genuinely think I cannot disagree. Now like I told you offline, I personally cannot fathom someone being abused sexually by their father and then be willing to forgive them and still have an interaction with them. For me, I know everybody's different. For me personally, my healing does not include having you in my life. I can forgive, but you've shown me who you are. And even if you've changed, even if you reformed your life, for me, my trust in you has been broken. Unfortunately for you, I am not willing to renegotiate my safety, my mental health, my physical health to allow you access. I trust who you showed me you were the first time. But that's me. as you stated, it happens, and it does happen, where people do forgive, their abusers, and they will even go as far as for them in their forgiveness. That means they are back in alignment with this person, into some sort of relationship or interaction with this person. So I could not, although I cannot fathom, because that does not resonate with me. However, there are people that it does resonate with. So because of that reason, I feel like, not even that, I do feel like he needed to address it and make it clear that it was not me, if that is the case. He didn't have to.
That's what's the weird part, is that he hasn't even gone on record and said it's not me. It's like, why are you not at least saying that? So does that mean
I see that
some truth to this then? And
I see that part in his mother.
Are you not wanting to have this conversation with Kerrion because Kerrion is also a public figure, and you are afraid of whatever conversation y'all have privately, Kerrion will be transparent about that in interviews?
Do you see how each one of them, like you said earlier, Kerrion's a firecracker. Do you see how they all mirror each other?
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. It's a domino effect.
They're all mirroring each other. And so I do feel like, that's why I said, somebody put this in his DM, I feel like he's not at that place of his healing yet where he can see that. Like I said, for myself, I have to verbally speak it out. Say it out of my mouth for it to be tangible. Anything that pertains to me being self-aware of my actions and my thoughts, I have to, because that's the only way that I can actually do the work. And I feel like he needs to do that. I feel like there's a similarity there, and I wish he would, damn it, speak to it, because that is a part of your healing as well, Kirk. And you don't know how God is using you. I don't think he understands the magnitude. He realized that
if he is guilty of Rumazenti, there's no way, there ain't a system that's in place for him to rest on if he was to admit that he sexually abused his child. And
no, I told you offline, I said I believe that he knows who did it. I believe it's a similar situation like it was with D.L. Hughley when his daughter came and told him what his friend did and how he treated his daughter. I feel like there is a great chance that this is what he did to Kerrion, because remember, he was raised by one of those older women from a certain generation, and he learned that behavior. That's what you do. So I believe wholeheartedly, at the risk of not staining his reputation even further, which is crazy because I wouldn't even want.
And guess who he get that from? He get it from
his mama. She's a pick-me. His pick-me ass mother.
That's the hypocrisy of Kirk. Of it all.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you not ever want? How dare you not ever want to speak to your mom again about what she can't talk about and she can't be open about, when you can't do the same as it relates to some things between you and your son.
Right. And maybe that's the reason why he had, because him and Kerrion got into that, happened with them before he found out about this by the now biological father, before they did the documentary. So, and he didn't speak to it. So I wonder if he even understands and knows. Again, y'all, whoever send this to his DM, I wonder if he's aware of that. You know what I mean? This is, again, the same compassion that I would have. I'm thinking that the mom experienced so much trauma, if not as much as Kirk. Again, going back to these generational curses. It's no telling what this woman, not even just to the situation with Kirk, but just what she experienced in her life. And because of that, I can have compassion for her, and I can have empathy for her, and still at the same time hold my foot to her neck the same way I would with Kirk.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why it's important, because listen, mothers, because of there are some kids that come from two-family home, and then there's a lot of single parents. But regardless if you're a single parent or not, 9 times out of 10, you're the one that's with that child the most. You're the one that the child is learning from, the child idolizes. And I think it is important for us to be aware of how we treat our children, how we communicate with our children. I'm really transparent with my children. Their father, their dad, he doesn't like that. But he's a man of a certain age from a generation where your business is your business, they kids, they just stay in the child's place.
Yeah.
I have boundaries. I've been this way with them all their lives. I've kept it age appropriate, but I've been honest with my children. Because the first thing first, I don't want nobody else telling my story to my kids anyway.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to tell, because even if they were there, they're still not going to tell it from my perspective.
Yeah.
And I'm not interested on trying to sell my children a fantasy, because again, my children live with me. So they're going to see me live a certain kind of way, whether I'm in their presence or outside of their presence. They know their mom. And what they don't know of their mom, I feel like it's my place to tell them, nobody else.
Yeah.
And I think that Kirk needs to understand that. I think his mom needs to understand that. And I also think Kerrion needs to understand that, because he may become a parent one day. He may become a parent one day. And he needs to know it now so that he can, outside of just healing himself, he needs to be prepared to give to his kids what he did not get from his father. Because he knows what it feels like. That's why I also struggle identifying with the mom in that sense, because honest to God, as a child, I felt like I owed nothing to my mother. I felt like she owed me everything. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like I should have to put in the work. I felt like she should put in the work. But I go back to what I was saying. Honestly, I remember my maternal instincts kicked in quick. I did a whole 360. It was shocking as hell to me. I enjoyed being single, not having no children, being able to come and go and, live that single life. I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. But instantly, once I sat down and took accountability, I'm going to keep this baby, everything for me instantly changed. I could not think about me anymore. And when I physically had him in my arms and he became tangible, the reality, I made a promise. I'm going to give you everything I felt like I lacked. Damn, it just came to me how I realized what it was that made me develop empathy for my mom. Because I said, I'm not perfect. I talked to him like it was a damn Tyler Perry movie. I said, I'm not perfect. I'm going to make some mistakes. But I'm going to always be honest with you. And I'm going to always give you my best. Just know that. And I would tell my child that all the time, whisper in his ear, and I would say it all the time. It became, when you do something repetitively, religiously, it becomes a habit. It becomes who you are. Mm-hmm. And so I think the disconnect of not understanding, we all been kids. I'm going to say that 1,000 times. We know if our parents would have talked to us and gave us certain information, it would not have changed their opinion of us, because my kids could care less about the shit I be telling them. They really don't be wanting to even hear it. Mm-hmm. Not, they really don't be like, I don't care why you telling me this. They don't care because they have their own perception of who you are in their lives. They would like, of course, they'll appreciate the information later on because it gives them perspective of why things are the way that they are, but they could care less. Yeah. But one thing you haven't done is rob them of the opportunity to feel safe. Because being honest with your children, talking to your children and not down to your children, it provides them a safe place in you.
But that's also, what you are giving them is also a reflection of you being able to get there with yourself about you and your stuff.
Yeah.
Like, to hoard that stuff on the inside is one thing, but then to get so clear about it and to get so comfortable in your humanity and so authentic in your humanity that you can open the books of your personal diary up to your community, to your children, to the people around you, takes a level of doing just that, getting comfortable and clear with you and becoming very present with you. And we're still dealing in a system that is about upholding an image. And we know that the Black community upholds respectability politics more than any other community in the country. So we know how to put makeup on a black eye. And we know how to wear masks as a result of the system and the circumstances that we came into the system with. And this is all a part of that, like, cultural work that Black and brown people have to do, because there's a lot of things culturally, historically, that are contributing to why we are not showing up and why we're not comfortable in our truth and why we feel more ashamed about our lived experiences than not. And as somebody, like, as a queer person that had to come, that had to come out and had to, like, do my work to decolonize my brain and to get comfortable with who the fuck I am and to be able to, like, accept the consequences of living in my truth. That shit did not happen within a vacuum. Like, that shit took a lot of intentionality, self-work, self-care. So I understand people who walking around, it's no excuse, especially when it affects somebody else. You definitely have to do the work as a parent, because as you're saying, like, you do owe that to your children. Like, if you don't owe it to nobody else, you owe it to your offspring, period. And that's that. But at the same time, when you don't have anybody in your system advocating for your voice and advocating for you to move away from shame, once again, something that the Black community, with our respectability politics, nothing in our respectability politics is about the truth. It's all about image. It's all about denial. It's all about making things appear like something else other than what it in fact is. It's about sweeping shit under the rug. It's about conformity. It's about living up to the expectations of your community, of your family, da 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 da. So it's incubated in all of that shit, and so many people are a victim of that. People at their big old age of 60, 70, 80 haven't even done half that fucking work. Went to the grave inauthentic, went to the grave closed the fuck off, went to the grave without their story told, went to the grave without making things right, without giving closure. It's tragic. And I see everybody as a victim of this. Black and brown people are under very extreme, as you said, abnormal and demonic circumstances. Very extreme. And people need help out of this. And look at how the auntie went in to guard her sister from what Kirk Franklin was trying to get her to own up to. That goes to like, and that's what I mean when you got the culture participating in the closetedness. When you got yes men, when you got what people are calling normal, being reinforced by the majority. No, keep it under the rug. Keep it there it is. Like, I empathize, rumors.
Okay.
They're both victims of fucked up ass circumstances, and it's just sad. It's just sad. I don't know what else to say about it other than it's sad. And then Kurt had to end up being a byproduct of a absent ass father or whatever his situation was with his dads, and then with his mom, and then here comes Kerrion, and Kerrion is having a black sheep experience, and it becomes
And we
thing after the
see it
other.
every day. We see it every day. It's like you said, it's just it's been dressed up with a prettier bow. Like, it's just such the norm that no one is disgusted, but I am truly disgusted. Like, I cannot sit back and continue to harp, but I never really did that. The pendulum always swung both ways with me. I just cannot sit back and know someone personally as a parent, see them failing as a parent, and not speak up. Because I'm always going to advocate for the child more than I will for the parent. And I can have empathy for the parent, but the child is always going to take my first priority because they're defenseless. They're defenseless. And I tell people this all the time.
A lot of times these parents are too, because once again, we're talking about like the nuance of people.
No, I understand that, but
people being sexually assaulted and forced to conceive, people being pressured into living lives that they personally would have avoided. Like, had that woman in Kirk Franklin's mother's life not pressured her, Kirk would have never been here to inherit what he's living through and trying to liberate himself through in his life as a man now.
But I still, because there's still a level for me. I would rather do that, because then this goes back to what I said earlier. A person doesn't have to show me but one time. When I am truly, I'm not talking superficially triggered. When I am truly hurt and injured, I don't fool with you no more. I don't care who you are. The universe and God working hand in hand legitimately has to come and touch my heart, my soul, pierce my soul, and shift the energy within me, because I am not equipped, me personally, I am not equipped to ignore my injuries and who injured me. I feel like if he hasn't gotten to that place yet, that he needs to get there sooner than later, like pretty much ASAP. Because at this point, you're doing it to yourself. I agree, even though then I did not agree, but I agree because how many times are you going to continue to make the effort? How many times are you going to keep making the effort? If she does not come to you herself, there's no need to try again. You found who your father is. You have, if you want them in your life, your aunts, the other extended family. Be grateful for that and work on your relationship with your son. Break the cycle. You cannot break, you already passed it on to him, but you can help Kerrion break the cycle so it doesn't go on to the next generation. And he needs to really do more work. But I am glad, me personally, I'm happy that I see that he is doing work. But part of that work is taking accountability as well for continuing on the conversation. Like, just keep putting yourself in a situation where you're going to come out on the same side. Nothing is changing. So I don't know if he's made any attempts since that documentary. Because prior to that documentary, he had went like almost 23 years without talking to this lady. No contact. I think that he needs to go back, like revert back to that if he hasn't already, and stay there and put that passion and energy into his son. Because that's a part of his healing as well.
I think the last time that I heard him talk about his son was around the cussing out video, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I think the attitude was they're just gonna, at this point, they also feel like they've done everything they can to help Kerrion to fix the issues. They've been to therapy as a family. They've all of this stuff. Even the cuss out video was actually a therapy session. Like, that's what Kerrion was recording. And they just feel like at this point, Kerrion has to figure this out for himself the way that I guess we are saying that now, Kirk, you gotta like now embrace and hold yourself accountable for your condition and hold yourself accountable for your salvation. But if there's been abuse there that has gone unspoken, Kurt definitely needs to not be a hypocrite and run away from that.
Well, according to him, in that interview, he said that they are in a good place. They're in the best place they have ever been. And, but the only thing, because he answered the questions that old boy was asking him, Cam, but he did not speak. He did not go into detail, because even when he spoke, it was very much general. He did not address. It was more of I'm verbally acknowledging that I was wrong. I was the parent, that I have not done everything well as a parent, that it is my place. When he asked about him being bisexual, he said he loved his son. It's not his place to love who his son with or judge or even be, care about who his son with. All that, in my opinion, it was politically correct somewhat for because he's walking a fine line. He's speaking aggressively a bit about some things that are not that are kind of like against the church, but he's riding how you say that, a tight fist, tight rope.
Yeah.
And I feel like he did I believe there's truth that he loves his son, that he may not be concerned, but I did feel like there was a part of him that did not really answer that question.
I think it's hard for him to answer the question, because I think when he says that they're doing better, I think he literally means that relatively speaking, because I think it was just last year or year before last that after even Kerrion had got out of jail, he said that his father was the one to help him, to get himself together, to help him get stable after he got out, and that they were in a great place. He was kind of giving his dad praises for supporting him during that time. But then a few months after that, he was back in the news for blasting his dad for posting like a family portrait for Thanksgiving or something that Kerrion wasn't included in. His picture wasn't included. And I think he claimed he wasn't even invited. And so I think, I don't know, it's just like their relationship is weird. Like, it's just very topsy-turvy, uppy, downy. It's kind of, and I don't know whether Kurt, I don't know, it's weird because when I think about it,
you ever think that Kerrion probably was discerning just what we were speaking to about Kirk doing the same exact thing to him that Kirk's mother was doing to him or is doing to him?
I was about to say that, like, it's weird though, because I can't imagine Kurt, like, the bigger part of me just can't imagine that he's failing to do for his son what his mom felt to do for him. I would think as much as he's like so adamant about what he needs from his own parents, that he would be better equipped to know what to give to his son, because he's in a similar predicament with his own parents. And maybe Kurt is trying to implement things that he thought was breaking the cycle, like therapy, keeping Kerrion close to him, because I think that Kerrion was like on the road with him a lot when Kerrion was younger. That's how Kerrion like learned about the industry and music, and you know, he was on tour with his father and stuff. I think there's also times where he wasn't on tour with his dad, and there was like issues there in terms of distance and all of that. And I think Kurt is interesting because Kurt is unique, just like his son. His son, like Kerrion, kind of gives me like a distorted empath. Like he's like a crystal child, or like an indigo child, like hypersensitive, has a lot of strong energies, heightened intuition, very creative and artistic, and so that makes him unusual. This means that his lived experience is going to be awkward as well, because the system doesn't treat unusual people well. So you tend to be also subjected to bullying as a result of being different in whatever way that you're different. You don't have to be gay to be different. You just are different because you're different. And the system sometimes doesn't know how to deal with and doesn't always treat different people well. So like you get into these, you know, everything becomes kind of complicated when you're just unusual and you are gifted and you are kind of strange and kind of like you're just unusual in your desires and your capacity. And sometimes parents who have very special children, and when I say special, I mean like a gifted, whether that's psychically, whether that's spiritually, whether that's in talent, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes the parents don't know that necessarily, and they don't know that like that child calls for a different type of parenting because they have a different capacity for learning. They have a greater capacity for love and attention. They may need that at a greater rate than their siblings. They may need that at a greater rate than some of the other kids. They may need more attention. They may need less attention. They may need to be cultivated in a particular way that's not necessarily clear or understood by the parent, because the parent may be not recognizing and discerning just how unique that child is, and may just be treating them how they have and are treating the other kids. It's so nuanced, because I experienced that. Like I was a unusual kid. I had a lot going on. I was experiencing so many things, psychically, spiritually. I was very artistic. I was very different. I've always been very different my entire life. And because my parents were like atypical parents and they were just normal people, but they gave birth to a fucking mutant. They gave birth to an X-Men, but they weren't X-Men themselves. They didn't know where they were dropping the ball per se. And if you let them tell it, you know, largely they probably thought that they were really doing a great job. And I can give them that, because I mean, like, what you don't know, you don't know. And I mean, me being a child too, I couldn't inform them because I didn't know what the fuck I was. I didn't know what the fuck, you know, what my existence was. So nobody had no information. And I know that there's plenty of people who are going through this. And when I look at Kerrion and I see, okay, he has a lot of uniqueness, you know, has his own personal style. He's very introverted. He definitely seems, you know, all of his outbursts with his family screams to me that there's a particular capacity for sensitivity and a capacity for community and for love and for affirmation that he needs. Because when you are an unusual person, like, you really experience that unusualness in yourself. Like, every day I wake up, I know I'm unusual. Like, I can feel my unusualness. Like, I know I am not of this world. Like, I'm so aware. And when you are young and you are experiencing that unusualness and you don't have language for it, you don't have context for it, you lean on the people that are supposed to affirm you a little, like even more, to just let you know you're okay. You're okay. You know, like you just need to know that from the people that are in place to provide you that affirmation. And I'm thinking in some ways, Kerrion probably just didn't experience that. And that might not be because his parents were awful parents. They just didn't know. And he doesn't know that they really didn't know. And he's internalized what they didn't give to him and taken it personal. And he has possibly developed a belief that this was intentionally done to him, that he was intentionally neglected, that he wasn't enough, because we have intrusive thoughts as humans. And sometimes, you know, when we don't seek answers or we're not given any, we make up our own. And sometimes we make up destructive beliefs. We come up with destructive contexts that may not be true to the reality of the way shit really was. I just think that the whole human existence is fucking complicated as fuck. Like, because the system is so matrixy and it's about dumbing people down, people just getting it wrong. Not even because they're bad people, but just because the matrix is wrong, the system is wrong, and therefore everybody's kind of tripping over their own tail.
We are taught that what we're seeing, what we're feeling, what we're experiencing is all an illusion. And we are taught to buy the illusion and in place of what we are actually seeing with our own eyes, experiencing with our own being. We are so the confusion that creates, because you're looking at a thing, you're recognizing a thing, you may not have the language for the thing, but you see the thing, but you're being taught, it's being forced. It's like you're being forced to ignore what you're seeing and to believe the illusion that has been created. And this happens to adults as well, but it starts with the child because they're easily more to brainwash. When the younger you start, the easier your job is to keep that person in a sunken place, into the matrix.
Yeah.
And that's why I wrestle, although I can be empathetic, excuse me, I still struggle with the reality, because it's like once I became in the known that I was in the fucking matrix, I can't allow myself to go back into the matrix. I cannot go back into the ways of the old that were not beneficial for me.
Yeah.
That's the breaking of the cycle. And I want people to know, because it's not specifically about Kirk and his family and their issues. Because for me, this is a common day-to-day thing in our communities. And it needs to be spoken out more of. I don't have all the answers. And the answers that I do have, I don't always know how to properly carry them out. This is a trial and error thing.
Yeah.
But I think the most important thing that I have said and that I believe and I practice is literally walking in my humanity, operating in my humanity. Yeah. Because my humanity is what connects me. That's the only way that I can tap into my empathy, because it allows me to see you as I see myself, which is flawed, but still great. I haven't begun to touch the surface of my greatness. And I know that even where I'm at right now is so much better than where I was.
Absolutely.
Treating people, not just my children, treating people good makes me feel good. Looking for nothing in return. I do expect for people to treat me, because nobody in my life can ever be as good to me as I am to them. I know that. I accept that. But doing that makes me feel good. And again, that's how I know. It's just certain things I find myself throughout the day. I don't know if anybody else do it. I feel like I'm having testimony service. I don't know if anybody else do it. But I go throughout my day and I reflect. I examine myself all the time. I offer myself grace, but I'm also very, very hard on myself.
Yeah.
I can't get comfortable where I'm at because I know there is more for me. Like, I know that ultimately we are divine beings. We come from deity. We're destined and created for greatness. That ain't just me talking. This is what I feel, what I believe, what I know. And so I examine myself every day. And I not just talk to my children, I talk to the people that are in my life. I want to be aware. I ask important, how you doing, et cetera, et cetera. But then I also have conversations about, how do you feel about me?
Yeah.
What do you think about me?
I do the same thing. I go in for a progress, a report. Is there anything I can do better as a lover, as a loved one, as a friend? I do them check-ins too, and I think it says a lot about you know, to be a contemplative thinker, because what it says is that you're living intentionally and that you are interested in also living responsibly, and that's why you question yourself and you inspect yourself and you evaluate yourself. So that's a really great, healthy and mature higher consciousness trait to have.
Right. And if you know, people some of them tell me you're doing too much. You all no, I be like, I ain't doing enough. And again, I ain't perfect. I'm definitely not, but I never want nobody.
And that's all the more reason why you do what you do, because we are aware that we can fall to error. We are aware that we're working through things, and that's why we pay such close attention to ourselves, to make sure that that stuff isn't showing up. To keep,
I never want people to feel pain. Like, if you've ever truly been hurt,
yeah,
and you know what that feels like. I don't care where the hurt came from. It could have been a romantic relationship. Hell, it could have been from a school teacher. If you've ever really been hurt, you don't want nobody else to feel that.
No.
But the only way that you have to be healed. There's no way around that. You have to do the work, and you have to not just look at the person that harmed you, but look at yourself. It doesn't mean that their actions was warranted, but you do have to look at yourself at some point, because I remember when I first heard the term trauma bonding. I didn't know what it was called. But I noticed that I was hanging with a lot of people that had went through the same thing as I was going through. Like, they had support groups and stuff. And I was going to these support groups, and these people became my friend. And every time we got together, we was fucking sitting around breaking up, talking about this trauma, crying and drinking and all that. And I'm like, damn, we ain't never really having a good time. Like, but you feel like, oh, you've accomplished something because you talked about it, but it was never no, let's move forward. We never had good conversations about anything positive. It was always the damn trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I started cutting people one by one because I got tired of it. But it took a year. It took a whole year for me to just do away with all of those people, because I realized when I started changing my language, I got into Iyanla heavy.
Mm-hmm.
She really helped fix my fucking life. True story.
Facts.
And I was like, damn. So I started changing the conversation. Let's talk about more productive things. And these people didn't want to talk about that. They would get offensive. I'm telling you, trauma is literally engineered by the enemy. It is nothing but dark energy to literally keep you bound. People will become aggressive and damn near like ready to fight you because you don't want to sit there after we don't been. I know your story. It's been a year. I know your story. No shade. But is there anything else going on in your life? And people became damn near violent.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I first started doing the work wholeheartedly. Like, I decided to dedicate myself to being a better me.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering, was I showing up like that to people?
Mm-hmm.
And I started thinking, am I hurting people? Is this a way unconsciously for me to hurt people so that we can trauma bond? So I don't, like they say, a pity party. Somebody always wants somebody to join a pity party. I'm like, am I doing this, unknowingly?
Mm-hmm.
And from those aspects, I do have empathy, but at the same time, Conscious, I'd be like, no, because some people, not everyone, but some people choose deliberately, but it's still, I'm not going to say there's still not a place for the empathy, even within that. It's just hard for me to relate, and maybe I'm biased because I did the work. It was not always comfortable for me to have to openly acknowledge my family knew, the immediate parts of the family knew, but the general public did not know I was fighting my mother. I'm talking about fighting like we were strangers. To have to verbally say that and then go to my mom and not even give an explanation of why. Not even, looking for I went to her and apologized, because regardless of anything, didn't matter to me at that point what she did, whether she provoked me or not. I had to apologize because what I did not help the situation. It didn't. Even if I was justified, I still felt unjustified because it didn't help. Especially when I got of an age to know the patterns. I knew the patterns. I absolutely knew every time I became intentional about fighting her. I wanted to fight her like she was a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I had no intentions to try to fix anything.
Yeah.
And so I had to take accountability on my behalf, because now I'm of an age where I know better. I know better. And I said, okay, so you don't have no self-control, baby. You don't have no self-control. That ain't about her. That's about you.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything you were saying in reference to Kirk, there is things that, not just him, but people, there are people like Kirk that only deal with their own pain and never deal with the pain that they've caused and brought upon someone else. Regardless if it's because of the pain he carries, you've now done to your son what your mother has done to you. And if you can, I don't know if they've worked that out behind the scenes. I would personally, with him doing interviews and even discussing his mom in that situation, I feel like it's fair to discuss his son.
He should, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Should, yeah. Yeah.
If the purpose is to tell your story for healing, because this is what you say you were doing, then lay it all on the line. But see, you need the right interviewer.
Well, but as I was saying, it might be that he has it written in his thing, in his interview, his interview notes, like in his pre-interview script. Like maybe certain things are off the table, but that would be hypocritical if it is, because, like you said, this is a part of healing, and if your mom's stuff can be public, then so can the situation with your son, which all has been public. And it would be nice to hear how that conversation has been navigated, because if he's also talking about this openly to be an example and to help other families and to help other people to navigate these type of things which are prevalent in the Black community, SA and parental neglect and all the stuff which is why so many Black and brown people feel like they have the same story, they've been through the same thing, they have the same families. Then talk about the situation with your son, and it's just hard for me. I just don't understand why Kirk won't address it, period. And I don't understand how nobody doesn't think to ask him about it, because it's just we now know, according to your son, that he's been SA'd. I don't understand how that's not something that you don't make a part of the discussion for the sake of helping other people, because that's a really heavy thing. And he's in the business of so-called speaking about heavy things and exploring the heavy work, unless he was the abuser. It's the only way I can understand him not speaking about it is maybe he was the abuser, because why else would you distance yourself from that?
Oh, who if not himself, who is he protecting?
And it would be a damn shame if Kirk Franklin would rather protect his son's perpetrator and abuser than to be there for his son. And it would make him the hypocrite of all hypocrites to have the audacity to be drudging up the skeletons of his mother and attempting once again to cook. It would be so disgusting if that was.
And maybe that's why the universe ain't giving him the answers he wants. He's gotten the answers, but maybe the universe is not allowing him to get that from his mother because he won't give it to his son. And that's some real tea right there. Like, because I do think, like I told you, I don't remember that. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I know you don't lie, so to us about stuff like this. I don't remember that accusation, the video or anything. And if I did, because it was so much coming out, and I was hopping from you to Larry or whatever the case may be. It was a lot.
It's on my channel. I did a whole video.
I'm not saying that you're lying. What I'm saying is I don't remember it.
I'm gonna put it up.
Because if I remembered it, I would have damn sure put it in the live chat. I sure would have. Is he going to address that?
I'm gonna pull it up, see, because somebody got an audio. Yeah, it's plenty of audios. Let me see.
I didn't even think that during the interview. I'm like,
I'm gonna go on mute and find it.
Prices rise.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see those accusations, but once Conscious was telling me about it, I'm like, I don't know why he would not have spoke to that. Like, even if it, like, Conscious, he has a point. Like, but if Kirk is protecting someone, he's basically doing the same thing his mother did. So going back to the pathologies of generational behaviors, like, Kirk, you may be more like your mother than you want to acknowledge. You saying that y'all just alike as far as tempers, but you have more of her toxic character than you may want to openly admit, because I don't understand why, with that type of accusation being put out there, why you haven't spoken to that. I mean, you ain't put out a meme, you ain't type out a statement, you haven't spoken to it at doing no interviews, and that's kind of strange to me. I mean, you've told us all this about your parents and not knowing and being raised by this woman and all of that, and even down to your porn addiction and everything. Why shy away or refuse to discuss the accusations?
I found it whenever you're ready for it.
Go ahead.
This is courtesy of the Pascal show. Fair use. Let me put up my fair use banner. Courtesy of the Pascal show on YouTube. All right, check this out.
Hear it. You hear that? One more time.
So as you can hear him say, why are you playing my molester? He's walking in on his roommate playing his dad, like one of his dad's songs from his album, saying, why are you playing my molester?
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure he's aware that footage is out there.
Oh no, he's definitely, it went viral. He's damn sure aware of it. It was no way for him to not know. It went more viral than the cuss out shit did. Like, that was because obviously, like, the allegations are much more explosive. So of course that was even more like.
I would like to see him and his son do an interview together with someone that is willing to actually have the conversation.
I think most people would be. I think it would be a matter of would they actually want to, because you know, everybody is gonna be with it. Mostly
No,
everybody
you know,
shit. So.
no, you need somebody that's going to lie, but you know, then that'll turn into a legal thing or whatever the case may be. I just wish that, you know, I'm going to say this. I would like for it to be public since the accusation was made public, right? Even though Kerrion did not release it, it still was released to the public, and I would like for it to be addressed. But more importantly, I pray to God that it has been addressed between him and his father. I pray that they had a conversation.
Yeah, I hope so too.
About this, because it's no way, like, the universe does not reward us for half works. It doesn't reward us fully for half works. And the only way, like, he's going to get whatever it is he needs from his mother, if he still desires it, is if he pays it forward and does the same for his son. I don't see the universe giving you what you have not earned. Enough is already given by grace, but you still have opportunities to correct what has been done incorrect. But if you don't, and I'm not, you know, I don't want to rush no one's journey, but I feel like when it comes to matters like this, it should be an urgency. It should be an urgency. Like correcting these type of toxic cycles, because it's been done for so long. I feel like everything should be the extreme of an emergency, and you know, don't rush past it to that you don't complete your work, but have just as much motivation and drive that you had when you were causing the offense. Yeah. Have just that much passion, that much drive. I think Kerrion deserves it, and I think Kirk deserves it, and I think Kirk Mama deserves it.
Somebody said that it was reported that they apparently have talked, but obviously that was a private conversation, which is what we're saying is that it should have been, because it's just like, if he out here talking about everything, then don't be cherry picking, because if you're going to cherry pick what you're going to put out there, then be compassionate toward your mother. Like, keep that same energy toward her too. Don't expect her to want to divulge certain things to you, because you are going to be in the business of being flippant about her stuff and it affecting you, but then you want to keep certain things as it relates to you and your son in the background. Like, it's hypocritical, it's bizarre. But I'm just like, if you also can understand that, then there should be some leniency and some empathy towards, like, your mom. Like, I get it. And the reality is, I don't even need you to confess it. Like, I know you lied. It's not even like what is there for you to actually say? You lied. I know you lied. The test proved that you lied, and I know you're a liar. And maybe why, you know, we'll add some context and help me to decide on the way I want to relate to why you are concealing it. But nonetheless, I do have the truth. Mom is out of order for not affording her children the answers that they deserve, especially as it pertains to the things that pertain to them, because they didn't have her, she had them. And they shouldn't have to have been lied to and been under the impression that they were living amongst their real father, and that wasn't the case. And they just shouldn't have been put through that. And I just would have preferred her to just refuse to actually answer the question than to have lied about it. Like, the lying is one thing. Pleading the fifth is one thing. Lying is another.
Right.
A lie. I'd rather you just refuse not to answer it.
Right.
Because at least, once again, it's not an indictment against your character explicitly if you are just not going to discuss it. But if you're going to lie about it, then yeah, you have intentionally afflicted someone. And I mean, they rightfully get to indict you accordingly. But also we have recognized that, you know, Kirk Franklin's feelings around his mom are justified. I mean, if she is a nasty woman who never put you first and she was emotionally unavailable to her kids and she lied and she was just narcissistic and selfish, then yeah, I'm happy that he isn't speaking to her. I think it's unfortunate, but I also understand exactly why. And trust should be earned. So if she's not willing to work on a relationship and foster trust, then she don't, you know, it ain't nothing for us to be talking about. Like, you allowed your actions to be what your legacy is, even when I gave you the opportunity to repent and I gave you the opportunity to do it differently, and you didn't take any of those opportunities. So now you're going to force me to look at you based upon your actions, and that's justified because you haven't done anything to change your own story. You
Right.
haven't done anything to change your perception of me. So whatever perception I choose is whatever I choose. If you are the boogeyman in my story, you're the boogeyman in my story. And you got to live with that because you forfeited the opportunity to show me differently. And I just hope, and I do hope for Kurt that he is past it. Not past it, but I hope that he understands that, like, now that he knows who she is, and this is the version of her that she wants to continue to walk around as, that he now pulls all of his emotional resources into himself.
Right.
Because this is a very deep thing that has a lot of moving parts, and we got to continue to change the culture, people. We got to continue to address and heal up ourselves. We have to address the culture and the things that we call normal as a community. We have to continue to uproot these things. I think that each generation is getting a little better. Like, this particular generation is a lot more transparent and a lot more ballsy and a lot more vocal than obviously our parents, etc. I can see where it's getting better at. For the people who are of that community, of the prior generation, we probably have to set the bar pretty low. Like, a lot of them are not going to go to the promised land. A lot of them are not going to be able to tap into the level of transparency that's available to them. They're not going to be able to provide the closure because they just been too trained to not to. And
you know, thank God though, Conscious, because there are a lot of this generation that is inspiring. My generation, my mother's generation. I know the numbers aren't large. When it, you know, is more of a minority, but they are.
Yeah, they're there.
You know, and I love it. I actually love it. Does my heart, because we can say so much negative about that generation, but however, it is inspiring to see them be vocal, to do the work, to show improve, because I feel like they actually learned to be the opposite of us in a lot of ways, you know, the toxic ways.
For sure.
And it's really good. Like, I'm happy that the statistics are starting to improve with people taking care of their mental health, putting themselves first, calling a thing, and still being able to love you in spite of that. It has to be really hard for those, you know, I kind of lucked up. I didn't have too much ridicule, like family shaming me in that way. I did experience some, but it wasn't a large amount. I did have people from my mom's generation encouraging me and pushing me to speak my truth. That was kind of shocking, but then I learned that's because they were not allowed the same opportunities. And so it becomes inspiring when you see the young people actually getting out here and letting it be known, like, no, this, that, and the third. Not even so much just telling, because I don't like when they be like telling your business. Nobody's telling your business. They're speaking to their own lived experience.
Exactly.
And unfortunate for you, you happen to be a part of that.
Yep.
And if you are ashamed, then you need to be doing the work.
Exactly.
And correcting it so you don't have to walk around with guilt.
Yep. So you can own it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do what you have to, because that's the only reason that a person could walk around upset. That goes for Kirk, that goes for his mama, that goes for my mama, and may she rest in peace, and everybody else's mama.
Yep.
The only reason a person will walk around and want you to not discuss something is because they don't want to correct themselves. The embarrassment is just an excuse. Because 99.9% of the time, that same behavior was displayed in the public.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody saw, again, about people trying to make you unsee some shit that you saw. Like, no, we all saw it. And we all knew about it. It happens a lot. Families, everybody, they talk about it and keep it a secret. But when you ain't around people talking about it, talking about you behind your back, you are the fucking topic. You and your son. So if this is already something that's common practice, I don't understand why. I know why they do it. I just don't understand. Like, but we done been here 3 hours. You ain't planning on dropping a link, are you?
No. I gotta go shower. But I am interested in doing a part 2 over the weekend and us continuing this conversation. So I'll probably see you guys, not tomorrow, on Sunday. Because this, once again, it's a lot of layers. It's a lot of people who have a lot to say and a lot of people who have lived through this. So I definitely want to give everybody an opportunity to, to contribute to the discussion and forward the discussion. And I thank you for bringing this discussion to the forefront, because it was necessary and this interview is enriching. And I also got to give Kirk his kudos for striving toward a healing. He's in a better place than what he was years ago, and he is doing that work to the best of his ability. And I just pray that him and his son can continue to heal and break a generational curses, and Kirk can continue to just find his glory. And he says he's in a great place under the circumstances. So I continue to wish him much healing. So yeah, we gotta do the work.
Shout out to Kirk for also acknowledging the fact that he didn't even have to be in existence. So despite how things turned out, life money is not everything, but he it definitely helps to have it. So you've earned some success. What you lack can be replaced. You may not be getting it from the source that you wanted, but you have people that are out here that do love you, that do acknowledge you. You have people in your family that want to have a relationship with you, whatever reason. You are still yet blessed. Maybe it is not designed. She was maybe only to be the concubine, not the concubine, the surrogate, correction, the one to bring you here. She may not have been destined to be the one to nurture you. Everything is literally designed for our divine will. So shout out to Kirk for that.
Yeah, shout out.
I love you, Conscious. Thank you for having the conversation.
And thank you for being here.
Love y'all, Conscious crew.
I love you too, boo. That was our Rumors and Tea, honey. She is the one who brought this segment to you guys. And I had no idea we would even get, well, I kind of did, because I know this is a lot, honey. And Rumors and Tea, she is an inspiration, because she did the work as a woman and she did the work as a mom, and her children are going to be better off for everything that she has learned about herself and everything that she's taken responsibility for as it relates to her own life. And, you know, I have to agree with her that this is the sworn duty of parents. So I understand the total empathy for the kids, because ultimately, you know, the kids, they don't have a choice. You know, they're kind of thrusted into all of this, and we should feel like we owe it to them, you know, to be at our best and to offer our best selves to them. So people, continue to do your work and not run from your demons, and to allow them to actually change you for the better, because that is one way to deal with the pain of your life, is to allow it to transmute you, use it as fuel to become a better version of yourself. So we'll continue this discussion. I love you all. This was amazing. Subscribe, thumbs up. Have a great weekend, and I will be back probably tomorrow with the part 2, and we'll be able to continue to keep this train rolling. Bye.